Chapter 1775. Even when Lin Yi was in a hurry to break through to the Earth class, he would still come out to talk to the girls and eat with them. However, he would never stay in his room for 2 days. Unless it was like the time when he was injured and couldn't come out, he wouldn't come out. After listening to Mingyao's words, old Lin's expression became even more serious. Since it happened so suddenly, there must be something wrong. Could it be that Lin Yi encountered some trouble? Then little Yi might have encountered some trouble. Although old Lin wasn't sure, he was still worried. I'll go take a look. We have to go too, Tang Yun said subconsciously. Okay, then you guys follow behind me and don't make any noise. If he really forgot the time, then we shouldn't disturb him, old Lin reminded. Tang Yun and the others quickly nodded to show that they understood. Old Lin made his way to Lin Yi's room quietly, pushing the door open with a slight push. Lin Yi never locked the door when he cultivated at home. There were no outsiders here, so he wasn't afraid of anyone disturbing him. Initially, old Lin wanted to be careful to not make any noise when he pushed the door open, but when he saw the scene inside the room, he was shocked. He quickly pushed the door open and rushed in, exclaiming, "Little Yi, what's wrong?" Lin Yi's entire body was red as he laid on the ground. His clothes and the wooden bed had already turned into ashes, and Lin Yi was lying in a pile of ashes. Tang Yun, Mengyao, and Shu heard old Lin scream and rushed into the room, but when they saw that Lin Yi was naked, they immediately blushed. However, it was only a blush, and they didn't care about being shy because the color of Lin Yi's body was similar to a cooked crab. That wasn't all. When they got close to Lin Yi, they felt like they were being burned. Grandpa Lin, what happened to Lin Yi? Tang Yun didn't care about her shyness and asked urgently. At this moment, Lin Dongfang also frowned. Obviously, he didn't know what happened and why Lin Yi suddenly became like this. I'm not sure, but something must have happened, old Lin said with a serious expression. This was clearly not cultivation, and cultivation couldn't be done by lying on the ground without moving. Something must have gone wrong. After saying that, old Lin reached out his hand and touched Lin Yi's body. Even though old Lin had an indestructible body, Lin Yi's heat was enough to make him choke. Fortunately, he wasn't injured, but if it was someone else, they would have been burned. Old Lin quickly retracted his hand after touching Lin Yi's body, and his expression became even more serious. Little Yi, did you have a similar situation before? No, he didn't, Tang Yun recalled and shook her head decisively. But he didn't, but I think Shu did. Mengyao suddenly remembered the time when Shu suddenly had a fever. It was similar to Lin Yi's current situation. Her whole body was red, as if she was cooked, and it was scary. The only difference was that Shu was awake at that time, but Lin Yi was unconscious. Oh. You're talking about that time when he was poisoned. Old Lin also remembered that Lin Yi called him and told him about Shu. Yes, that time when he was poisoned, but the situation was different, Mengyao nodded. Shu had a fever for no reason, and she said that it was a problem since she was young, but Lin Yi's. It should be a problem after his cultivation. Old Lin nodded approvingly. It seemed that Mengyao was quite smart, being able to see the difference in an instant. Before, when Shu had this kind of situation, how did you solve it? Old Lin asked. I took a medicine to suppress it, Yushu said, but a shield broke should be different. Yushu was a family member, and she knew that her body's condition was different from Lin Yi's. So, in order to not let Grandpa Lin misunderstand, she quickly explained. Indeed, it should be different. Old Lin risked being scalded again to test Lin Yi's breathing. He realized that Lin Yi's breathing was normal, so he calmed down and said, maybe something went wrong during his cultivation. You guys stay here, I'll go make a call. Old Lin took a deep breath. All these years, he hadn't contacted that person, but this time, for Lin Yi, he had to contact him. Because the situation Lin Yi was in right now was beyond his ability to solve. It wasn't something he could solve. Okay. Tang Yun agreed without hesitation. Although it was a little embarrassing, Lin Yi's life was in danger. Why would she care about anything else? Moreover, she and Lin Yi were already boyfriend and girlfriend. Although their relationship hadn't reached that stage yet, it was better to take a look in advance and gain experience. That way, she wouldn't be too shy and surprised in the future. Yushu, on the other hand, frowned slightly. She reached out her hand curiously and touched Lin Yi's body. Shu, be careful, don't touch him. Meng Yao was shocked. If this heat touched a normal person's body, wouldn't they be scalded to death? Before, Lin Dongfang had his own secret technique. Although he didn't seem to be injured, he still gritted his teeth from the heat. How could Shu compare? However, Meng Yao's words were still a step too late. Yushu's hand had already touched Lin Yi's shoulder. Both Meng Yao and Tang Yun were shocked. The moment Yushu's hand touched Lin Yi's body, there was a "chila" sound. Yushu just came in from outside. It was raining outside, so it was inevitable that there was some water vapor on her hand. This meant that the water vapor was evaporated in an instant. It was very scary. However, just when Tang Yun and Meng Yao were worried for Yushu, something strange happened. Yushu didn't seem to feel the heat from Lin Yi's body at all. Her expression didn't change at all. In the next moment, the red color on Lin Yi's body seemed to weaken a lot. Yushu's body suddenly became bright red. Her hand that touched Lin Yi's shoulder was like a conductor, transferring the heat from Lin Yi's body into her body. Chapter 1776. However, the color of Lin Yi's body had returned to normal. Although it was still hot, it was much better than before. It was as if half of Lin Yi's body heat had been taken away by Yushu. This magical phenomenon stunned Meng Yao and Tang Yun. What kind of kung fu was Yushu using? Why did it look like a superpower? Shu, are you okay? Meng Yao asked subconsciously. It's very, very hot, but I can handle it. Yushu said. I think that I wanted to help Shield Bro take some of the heat. That way, he'll feel better. How magical. Tang Yun looked at the blushing Yushu. She was very surprised. Yushu didn't seem to be afraid of the heat. But that wasn't right. She was someone who was afraid of the heat the most. Whenever it was summer, she would always ask for the heat, asking Tang Yun to help her dissipate the heat. Or more accurately, Yushu was someone who could withstand the heat the most. Although she was afraid of the heat, it wasn't dangerous to her. If it were someone else, they would have died long ago. This was similar to Xiao Xiao. Although Xiao Xiao was someone who was afraid of the cold the most, she was also the one who could withstand it. She was frozen in the ice coffin and nothing happened to her. Normal people wouldn't be able to handle it, right? Just as they were studying Yushu's miraculous phenomenon, old Lin went back to his room and quickly took out a small wooden box from under his bed. If Lin Yi were here, he'd be shocked to find that this box was exactly the same as the one he got from the cave. Old Lin quickly opened the small box. Inside the box, there were no martial arts manuals, nor were there any heaven-defying divine weapons. There was only an exquisitely crafted communication device. Old Lin didn't hesitate and pressed the button on the communicator. Old Lin didn't know if he'd get a response, but he had to do it now. Things had developed beyond his expectations. He himself was a miracle doctor. When he saw Lin Yi's condition, he could immediately conclude that the strange phenomenon on Lin Yi's body was not because he was sick, nor was it because he had been poisoned by some kind of fire poison. It was a strange phenomenon caused by something. But old Lin didn't understand the art of dragon mastery at all, and had never heard of it. The only thing he could do was to contact that person. Hopefully, this communicator is still working. Hopefully, I can contact that person. Otherwise, Lin Yi will really be in danger. Fortunately, there didn't seem to be any problems with the communicator. After old Lin pressed the button on the communicator, the indicator light on the communicator flashed a few times, as if it was connecting to something. After a while, the communication device connected smoothly, and a deep voice came from the other side. Mr. Lin. Are you in trouble? It's Lil E. After he opened the stone door to the second level of the cave, he started practicing the second level of the art of dragon mastery, but after that, his body became extremely hot. Old Lin quickly explained Lin Yi's situation. That's not right. How is that possible? How could this happen? The person on the other side of the communicator was also clearly taken aback. It was a little unbelievable. Right, aren't you a divine fortune teller? Why didn't you predict the problem this time? Old Lin asked. What happened to Lil E isn't something I can predict. The person on the other side of the communicator smiled bitterly. I made a mistake last time when I tried to predict his situation. His situation can't be predicted with common sense, then what do we do now? Old Lin asked. I'll be right there. Wait for me. The person on the other side of the communicator said. Can you leave that side? Is there no problem? Old Lin asked. I stayed here and didn't go to that place with Master back then, because... The person on the other side of the communicator paused. Let's not talk about this, I'll be right there. Okay, I'll wait for you. Old Lin breathed a sigh of relief. With this person's help, the problem might be solved. After the call, Old Lin quickly returned to Lin Yi's room and saw a very magical scene in front of him. Shu, you. Old Lin looked at Yushu in shock. You can conduct heat. Yeah, I think this way, Shield Bro can relax a little. Otherwise, I'm afraid he'll die from the heat. Yushu felt that she could share some of the heat with Lin Yi. This way, Lin Yi's problem wouldn't worsen. That's good. Old Lin was surprised, but he still nodded. Since Shu had such a special body, he'd let her take some of the heat for now. Old Lin, on the other hand, didn't say anything about Yushu, but he was getting more and more curious. Lin Yi mentioned that Shu's body seemed to be poisoned by fire poison. However, according to Old Lin's observation, Shu seemed to be fine. Only now did Old Lin realize that he was wrong. Moreover, Shu's body definitely wasn't fire poison. How could a person with fire poison share the heat for others? If it was in such a hot environment, she would have died from the fire poison. How could she be fine? But as weird as it was, Old Lin wasn't in the mood to think about Yushu's situation. Lin Yi's problem was more important, and while that person had agreed to come, West Star Village was a long way away, and Old Lin's heart was burning with anxiety. Yawn. Yushu yawned. She was a little sleepy. It was already late at night, but she was still sitting beside Lin Yi. Her hand touched Lin Yi's shoulder, not daring to move away. On Lin Yi's body, Old Lin also covered him with a thin blanket. Because Shu was helping to share most of the heat, the thin blanket wasn't burnt. Shu, if you are tired, you should rest. Old Lin looked at Shu's sleepy face and didn't want her to continue sharing the burden. After all, he could see that although Shu's life wasn't in danger, it was still very painful. I can't. If I go to sleep, what if Shield Bro gets burned? Yushu shook her head. How about this? Shu, you hug Lin Yi to sleep, can't you? Tang Yun said after some hesitation. Although she didn't feel comfortable with this decision, for the sake of Lin Yi's safety, she had to take advantage of Shu. One had to know that Tang Yun had never slept so intimately with Lin Yi before. However, Lin Yi's condition couldn't be delayed. If Shu left and Lin Yi really had a fever, Tang Yun would regret it. Chapter 1777. I don't think that's a good idea. Meng Yao felt that it wasn't appropriate to let Shu hug Lin Yi to sleep. If they really slept together, it would be hard to tell the relationship between Lin Yi and Shu in the future. Shu would basically be her mistress. Okay. Just keep it a secret for me. Don't tell Shield bro. Yushu, on the other hand, agreed right away. She fell down beside Lin Yi and hugged him, falling asleep the next moment. She was really too sleepy, and she had to share some of the heat with Lin Yi. She couldn't afford to relax at all, but now that she was hugging Lin Yi, she felt much more at ease. She could just rest without any worries. Tang Yun and Meng Yao looked at each other helplessly. Tang Yun was helpless because the benefits that belonged to her were taken away by someone else. Meng Yao was helpless because Shu seemed to be sinking deeper and deeper. Although Tang Yun didn't reject her, she didn't make any promises. Meng Yao was thinking more about Shu's future. What should she do? Let's get some rest, everyone. The friend I'm looking for might only arrive tomorrow. He might be able to solve the problem we're facing. Old Lin said that, but he couldn't help but show a trace of worry in his eyes. Even that person said that he didn't foresee this calamity, and that this situation wasn't likely to happen. It seemed that things had already exceeded their expectations. But the only thing they could do now was to wait. The night passed. The next morning, Old Lin woke up early. Tang Yun and Meng Yao also woke up. It was obvious that they didn't sleep well. They were all worried about Lin Yi. Grandpa Lin, good morning, Meng Yao and Tang Yun greeted Old Lin. You guys are early as well. Old Lin looked at the dark circles under Tang Yun and Meng Yao's eyes and shook his head. You two didn't sleep well, did you? How can we sleep well at a time like this? Tang Yun and Meng Yao said, we're all worried about Lin Yi. Old Lin nodded, and the three walked into Lin Yi's room. They were speechless when they saw Yushu sleeping soundly on top of Lin Yi's body. Shu must have had the best sleep of the night. Looks like Shu is the one sleeping the best. Meng Yao said helplessly. Forget it, let's not disturb her. She's tired enough. Let's just let them rest and wake them up when Grandpa Lin's reinforcements arrive. Old Man Lin agreed. Yes, it's good enough to see that they're fine. Now, we can only wait for that friend of mine to come. Although Tang Yun and Meng Yao didn't enter the room to disturb Lin Yi and Yushu, they didn't have the mood to do anything else. Old Lin laid down on the chair in the courtyard, waiting for that person to come. Tang Yun and Meng Yao sat quietly on the side. No one was in the mood to talk. In the blink of an eye, the entire morning had passed. Just when Tang Yun and Meng Yao were getting anxious, they saw a silhouette dashing towards them from afar. This situation made Tang Yun and Meng Yao jump in fright. A trace of excitement flashed in Old Lin's eyes as he suddenly stood up from the chair. The figure was getting closer and closer, and in the instant that Old Lin stood up, it had already reached the entrance of the small courtyard. Meng Yao and Tang Yun looked at each other in shock. The silhouette's speed was incomparably fast. When they first saw the silhouette, it was only a blurry image 300 to 400 meters away, but the moment Old Lin stood up, it was already right in front of them. However, this person was dressed like a Taoist, and he had a sage-like aura. Tang Yun and Meng Yao admired him. Just from this person's speed, they could tell that he wasn't an ordinary person. Old friend, you're finally here. Old Lin let out a sigh of relief. A relaxed smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect you to be this fast. Thank you. Mr. Lin, when the master left, he told me to. The Taoist paused and continued. Besides, you are the master's friend, so you don't have to be so courteous. Let's see how little E is first. Okay. Old Lin didn't say much. He knew the identity of the person in front of him, so old Lin couldn't do anything about it. However, if Lin Yi wasn't unconscious right now, he would definitely be shocked if he saw this Taoist. This was because this Taoist was the guy who chased after Lin Yi's car, the one who called himself Mo Kongwen. At that time, this guy's actions scared Lin Yi out of his wits. He didn't think that someone could run faster than a car. Even though Lin Yi was an Earth class now, he didn't dare to say that he had such speed. However, it seemed like Mo Kongwen didn't use his full strength at that time. Mo Kongwen followed old Lin into Lin Yi's room. As soon as he entered, he saw that Lin Yi was hugging a girl and sleeping. He had a strange expression on his face. Meng Yao was a little embarrassed as well. At this moment, Lin Yi and Shu were hugging too tightly. It was hard to avoid misunderstandings. She quickly walked up and patted Shu. Shu, wake up. Hiss. Ah. When Meng Yao's hand touched Shu's body, she suddenly shrunk back. Shu's body was frighteningly hot, just like the last time she acted up. Meng Yao was careless, and a few blisters appeared on her hand. At this time, Mo Kongwen finally noticed that something was wrong. He shook his head in embarrassment and said, I'm sorry, it was a misunderstanding before. But now it seems like it's the two of them. Both of them are burning up. However, what happened next shattered Mo Kongwen's guesses. Before Meng Yao could explain, Yushu was woken up by Meng Yao's push and shout. She opened her eyes in a daze and climbed up from the ground. What's wrong? What's wrong? Yushu, in her unconscious state, naturally left Lin Yi's body. Lin Yi's body temperature rose to the extreme in an instant. The thin blanket covering his body turned into ashes at this moment. Mo Kongwen understood the situation and looked at Yushu in surprise. She can actually share the heat with Lin Yi. Chapter 1778. Oh, thank you. Meng Yao took the bottle and realized that there was nothing on Lin Yi's body. She couldn't care less about her shyness anymore. Shu, why did you let go? Ah. Oh. Yushu woke up as well and quickly put her hand on Lin Yi's body. Lin Yi's body color, on the other hand, lightened a lot. Shu's skin, on the other hand, turned from white to red. Shu, the people Grandpa Lin invited are here. Help him check on Lin Yi and see what's wrong. Tang Yun said to Yushu. Oh, okay. Yushu nodded, but her eyes were sneaking glances at Lin Yi's body, regretting it. Did she fall asleep yesterday? Man, it'd be great if something happened between her and Shield Bro. She'd become the real wife. Even Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao couldn't compare to her. But she was tired and sleepy yesterday, so she fell asleep the moment she fell asleep. Naturally, nothing would happen. Shu, what are you looking at? Meng Yao saw Yushu's little action and scolded her. Oh. No. Yushu, naturally, wouldn't admit it. I saw it all, why won't you admit it? Meng Yao glared at her. Then why didn't you let me see it if you saw it? Yushu asked back. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. I saw it by accident, and you saw it on purpose. How could it be the same? Plus, my eyes didn't look at those parts. Meng Yao couldn't help but be curious at that thought. Her eyes naturally drifted over to Lin Yi's body. Oh. Yao Yao, you're such a pervert, I caught you in the act too. Yushu said. Meng Yao was about to explode. She wanted to tear Yushu's mouth off, but she stopped herself when she remembered Yushu's body temperature. She shook her head helplessly. Don't talk nonsense, I didn't. Alright, let's just let this grandpa take a look at Lin Yi's condition first. Tang Yun didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Meng Yao and Yushu. She didn't even say anything about Lin Yi being looked at, and they were already unhappy about it. While Tang Yun was talking, Mo Kongwen had already walked in front of Lin Yi. He raised his hand and touched Lin Yi's meridians. Then, he frowned and exclaimed in surprise, "Huh? How is it?" Old Lin quickly asked. "Little girl, move your hand away, let me have a look." Kongwen said to Yushu. "I'll take my hands off, it's hot." "Don't burn yourself." Yushu reminded, but let go of her hands anyway. The moment Yushu's hands left, Lin Yi's body turned red again, but Kongwen didn't seem to mind at all. His hand was still on Lin Yi's meridians, and he didn't show any signs of moving away. His expression didn't change at all, as if he couldn't feel the heat from Lin Yi's body. Meng Yao and Tang Yun were shocked, but old Lin, on the other hand, didn't seem to be surprised at all. It was as if he didn't feel the heat from Lin Yi's body at all. Something must have gone wrong with his training, and he's gone mad. After a while, Kongwen said, the qi in his body is in a mess, but there are no problems with his meridians. This is the sign of going mad. Going mad. Although old man Lin had thought about this before, he still found it strange when Mo Kongwen said it out loud. Why would he go berserk? Wasn't the art of dragon mastery left behind by that person? How could something go wrong? I don't know the reason yet, but I'm sure that there's nothing wrong with the art of dragon mastery itself, Kongwen said confidently. The problem must be with something else. That's... Old Lin asked hesitantly. I'm not sure yet. Kongwen turned to Yushu and said, little girl, your body seems to be a little special. Oh, I don't know, but I'm very resistant to heat. Yushu said. Kongwen's lips curved into a faint smile, and his eyes swept across Yushu's body. He then said, help Lil Yi cool down first. Lil Yi's condition will not be a problem for now, but it's possible that there will be sequelae after a long time. So, it's best if you can help him cool down. Let's talk about it after I find out the reason. Oh, okay. Yushu felt a chill in her heart when Kongwen looked at her. It was as if her entire being was seen through. She hadn't felt this way for many years. Although Lin Yi would sometimes see through her little disguises, it was the first time he could see through her inner world. Could it be that he saw through something? Did he know her secret? But seeing that Kongwen only told her to cool down Lin Yi and didn't say anything else, Yushu let out a sigh of relief. Mr. Lin, can you tell me the whole process of Lil Yi's return in detail? Kongwen didn't look at Yushu anymore, but turned to old Lin. Okay. Old Lin didn't dare to hesitate. He organized his words and started from the moment Lin Yi returned home. He told Kongwen about how Lin Yi obtained the second stage of the art of dragon mastery and began to practice. Of course, because Tang Yun and the others were there, old Lin didn't tell them about the cave. But even if old Lin didn't say it, Kongwen would still know about it. I know the reason. Kongwen interrupted old Lin before he could finish. The formula for body tempering can't be replaced by one. Although the fruit of peace can be replaced by other herbs that can calm one's mind, if the quantity isn't controlled properly, it will cause a problem. And Lil Yi's condition right now is caused by not suppressing the second stage of pure qi. His pure qi belongs to the extreme yang type. Once he goes berserk, his whole body will heat up. So that's the reason. Old Lin's face showed a regretful expression. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have asked him to replace the fruit of peace with other herbs. That's the reason. Kongwen nodded, but how can it be cured? Old Lin was regretful, but he was more concerned about how to cure Lin Yi's deviation. Chapter 1779. Then. Old Man Lin was shocked after hearing Imo Kongwen's words. Could it be that Lil Yi's condition was incurable? There's a way, but I don't know if it'll work. Kongwen said after some hesitation. What is it? As long as there's hope, we have to try. Old Lin had always looked calm and collected, even when Lin Yi had lost all his strength and had to go back to West Star Village to seek refuge. Old Lin was still as calm and collected as ever, but this time, he was truly panicking. There's a way, but I'm afraid it won't work. Kongwen said, so I've been thinking if there's an alternative, but no matter how I think about it, this might be the only way. What is it? Tell me. I'm getting impatient. Old Lin said worriedly. Go to the Snow Valley of the Ancient Faction and ask for an ice spirit fruit. It can be used to suppress the true qi in one's body and expel the fire poison produced during the process of qi deviation. Mo Kongwen said slowly. Snow Valley. Ice spirit fruit. Old Lin murmured these two names, a strange look on his face. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu, on the other hand, had a rather interesting look on their faces. What's wrong? Did you guys ask for the fruit from Snow Valley already, but there's no result? Kongwen paused. I've never heard of the fruit, but I've heard of the fire spirit fruit. Old Lin smiled bitterly. Lin Yi went looking for it before. Sky and earth treasures produced by the Ice Palace. Mo Kongwen was taken aback. Lil Yi has already made contact with people from the ancient era. Yes, I did. Old Lin kept it short, telling Kongwen about Xiao Xiao's situation, including Lin Yi's experience in the Ice Palace. I see. But the fire spirit's fruit is used by those who practice the extreme Yin hard art. It is used to suppress the coldness in their body and force out the coldness poison when they lose control. Compared to the ice spirit's fruit, it is much more important for a martial institution like the Ice Palace. Mo Kongwen said, however, the ice spirit holy fruit is not very useful to the Snow Valley because the Snow Valley also cultivates an extreme Yin attribute mental cultivation technique. Their ice spirit holy fruit can only be used to exchange for heaven and earth treasures with other sects. Therefore, if you ask for it, you can probably exchange it with money or other heaven and earth treasures. I see. Then, do you know anyone from Snow Valley? Old Lin asked. There's nothing I can do to get in touch with the Snow Valley. You know that I have something more important to attend to other than Lil Yi. Before I reach that level, I can't get in touch with people from the ancient era. Mo Kongwen's words were vague, and Meng Yao and the others were confused. Old Lin, however, seemed to understand what he was trying to say. He nodded slightly. Then. Meng Yao and the others didn't understand what he was trying to say, but Old Lin seemed to understand. Kongwen's eyes scanned Lin Yi, Yushu, and Meng Yao before stopping on Tang Yun. You must be Lin Yi's friends, right? I'll leave the task of getting the ice spirit fruit to you guys. Are you confident that you can get it for him? Us? Meng Yao and the others froze. They didn't expect Kongwen to give this task to the three of them. Mr. Lin can't leave Star West Village due to some special reason, so only you guys can do it, Kongwen said faintly. We'll try our best. Tang Yun didn't know where the courage came from, but she said firmly after hearing Kongwen's words. But Old Lin frowned. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't leave Star West Village, he would have gone to Snow Valley himself. But his situation was different from Air Gooden's. Air Gooden could leave as long as he didn't use his full strength, but Old Lin couldn't. But letting Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Shu go to Snow Valley alone was something Old Lin was worried about. They weren't practitioners, so how could they get the ice spirit fruit from an ancient sect? Old friend, the three girls, went to an ancient sect. Old Lin turned to look at Mo Kongwen, hesitating to speak. It's difficult, but it doesn't mean that we won't succeed. Kongwen looked at Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu meaningfully as he spoke. Oh. Old Lin paused. He knew that Kongwen was a fortune teller, and he had a deep understanding of Qi Men Dun Jia. If he said that it was not impossible, then maybe there really was a way. But Old Lin didn't know what Meng Yao and the others could do. The ice spirit fruit isn't much of a treasure to Snow Valley. We can sell it with some money, Kongwen said. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go now. Meng Yao let out a breath of relief when she heard that they could buy it with money. But after saying that, she looked at Tang Yun again. After all, Lin Yi was Tang Yun's boyfriend, and she didn't want to make Tang Yun think too much about it, right? Okay, then let's go now. Tang Yun didn't think much of it, but where is Snow Valley? Tang Yun suddenly thought of an important problem. They didn't know where it was, so how were they going to get there? I'll draw a map for you, you just need to follow the map, Kongwen said. Okay, then Yao Yao will drive, and I'll look at the map in the front passenger seat. Let Shu and Lin Yi sit in the back seat to help him cool down. Tang Yun didn't want to wait any longer after hearing that there was a solution. Kongwen took out a piece of paper and a map, and drew a map for Tang Yun and the others. When we get there, just tell them that we want to buy some treasures. Snow Valley should be able to sell them. Okay, let's go now. Tang Yun took the map and put it away carefully. Then, she started to pack her luggage and get ready to go. It was supposed to be a happy trip to the village, but they didn't expect trouble. Old Lin and Kongwen helped to carry Lin Yi into the car, and they left Star Mountain Village in a hurry. Kongwen's map was drawn along the highway, and there were no routes in the wilderness. This was also for the safety of the girls. After all, the three of them weren't practitioners, and Lin Yi was in a state of qi deviation. If there was any trouble along the way, it wouldn't be easy to solve it. However, this would undoubtedly cause the route to be a little longer and roundabout, and it couldn't be helped. Chapter 1780. Old friend, don't worry. Even though little Yi has gone berserk, his life is not in danger. I care about him more than you do. Mo Kongwen could tell that Old Lin was worried. I'm afraid that the Snow Valley won't sell the ice spirit's fruit to them so easily. Old Lin voiced out his concern. After all, Lin Yi had gone through a lot of trouble to find the fire spirit's fruit. Even though there were some twists and turns, the final result should be good. Mo Kongwen was calculating something with his fingers, but he couldn't help but let out a gasp of surprise. What's wrong? Old Lin's heart tightened. There's a result, but it's not perfect. Mo Kongwen frowned. Could there be an accident? A hint of worry flashed across Mo Kongwen's eyes as he spoke. An accident? Old Lin was stunned. It's nothing, maybe I made a wrong judgment. I can't predict little Yi's fate. Mo Kongwen shook his head, but only he knew what his prediction meant. If the result was not perfect, it meant that there would be no return. But since there was a result, it proved that Lin Yi was fine. The only possibility was that someone would sacrifice themselves in this trip to the Snow Valley. Mo Kongwen didn't have everyone's birth date, so he couldn't predict who would be sacrificed, but he could predict the cause and effect of the whole thing. Even so, he couldn't change anything. Sometimes, even if he could predict the result in advance, it wouldn't change anything. Some things were destined. Mo Kongwen hesitated for a while, but he didn't say anything else. His goal was simple. As long as Lin Yi was fine, everything would be fine. As for the others, he couldn't do anything about them. If his master was here, everything would be fine, but now, if Lin Yi woke up and resented him, he couldn't do anything about it. Everything had its consequences, and if he wanted Lin Yi to be safe, he had to pay a price. Old Lin could tell that there was a hidden meaning in Mo Kongwen's words, but he knew that if Mo Kongwen didn't say anything, it would be pointless for him to ask. Sigh. Mo Kongwen sighed and said to Old Lin, "We haven't seen each other for years, let's have a drink." "All right." Although Old Man Lin was worried, he knew that since Mo Kongwen said that Lin Yi was fine, he should be fine. The two of them turned around and walked into the room. Old Lin took out some fine wine that he had kept for many years. At the same time, the Hidden House Yu and the Hidden House Xiao broke off all of a sudden, and the conflict between the two continued to escalate. The second-generation disciples from both sides had already clashed several times, and both houses suffered varying degrees of damage. Although no one had lost their lives yet, it seemed like it would happen soon. But Elder Yu was the second elder of the association, and the other hidden houses didn't have the power to mediate. And so, things fell into a stalemate. After many discussions with the other elders of the Hidden House Association, they decided to use the communicator that they hadn't used in a long time to contact the Great Elder and ask him to mediate the conflict between the Hidden House Yu and House Xiao. This communicator was an emergency communicator left behind by the Great Elder before he left. He said that unless the Hidden House Association ran into trouble that they couldn't handle, they could only use the communicator. Although it was a bit excessive to use it because of the conflict between the two houses, everyone's main goal was to check if the Great Elder was still alive or not. One had to know that the Great Elder wasn't young at that time, and he had left with that person. Now that there was no news of them, it was uncertain whether they were still in this world. However, the influence of the Great Elder from back then was still there, and no one dared to stand out. They could only use this method to test the waters. Elder Yu and the other elders of the hidden houses sat around the conference table. Everyone unanimously decided to let Elder Yu press the button on the communicator. After all, other than the Hidden House Yu, the Hidden House Yu's prestige was the highest in recent years. Elder Yu didn't refuse and pressed the button on the communicator. The indicator light on the communicator flickered a few times, and it turned into a waiting state. Just as Elder Yu pressed the communicator, in a small house tens of thousands of miles away, the indicator light of a communicator flashed, and a sharp warning sound rang out, but at this moment, there was no one in this house. If one looked closely, the house was very tidy. It looked like someone had lived in it recently, but there was no one at the moment. The waiting indicator light on the communicator on Elder Yu's table flashed for 3 minutes before it finally went off, but there was no response from the communicator. Almost as soon as the indicator light went off, all the elders at the conference table let out a sigh of relief, a relaxed smile appearing on their faces. Looks like no one answered. Old Master Yu of the Yu family was also very happy, but he was a cautious person. In order to confirm, he pressed the call button on the communicator again. The indicator light lit up again and flickered. Everyone's breathing became tense again. Everyone stared at the communicator in front of them, but the waiting indicator light on the communicator went off after 3 minutes. They were sure that there was no response from the other party. Still no response. Elder Pai was a little hesitant, but also a little surprised. "I'm afraid not," Elder Yu nodded, "but to be careful, let's try calling again tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. If there is still no response, then we can basically confirm that Elder Yu left with that person, along with those sky-class masters. We are no longer bound, that's right, but will the ancient sects try to suppress us?" Old Pai's question was the one everyone was most concerned about. Everyone knew that the Hidden House Yu had the shadow of the Heavenly Elixir sect support. Otherwise, the Hidden House Yu wouldn't be able to not only become a sky-class master in a short 10 years, but also have great achievements in alchemy. They were almost catching up to the Hidden House Yu. Chapter 1781. As far as I know, all the ancient sects are preparing for the Sky Class Conference. How would they have the time to care about us? House Yu's elder said faintly. After that, he added, of course, this is just my speculation. However, although the old master of the Yu family said so, all the old masters present still showed a knowing smile. This was already the third day since Meng Yao and the others left the West Star village. Because there were 3 girls, they drove during the day every day. After getting off the highway at night, they found a large express hotel in the city and checked in. When they checked into the hotel, Xiao Shu carried Lin Yi. Although it looked like she was struggling, others couldn't help because Lin Yi's body was too hot. Other than Xiao Shu, no one could bear it. But Xiao Shu was also strong. She held on for a few days. No one knew where her explosive strength came from. Of course, because they checked into different hotels every day, no one suspected anything. When the 3 girls checked into the hotel, they directly said that Lin Yi had a cold and was having a fever. The redness on his body made it easy to see that he was sick. As for the redness on Xiao Shu's face, no one thought anything was wrong. They all thought that she was tired from carrying Lin Yi. We're almost there. Tang Yun looked at the map in her hand and couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Along the way, they were driving on the highway. Naturally, there wouldn't be any danger, but they were afraid that something unexpected would happen. But, as the saying goes, the more you're afraid of something, the more likely it will happen. They passed through safely all the way, but they encountered some trouble at the last stop. Because of the special geographical location of Snow Valley, Meng Yao could only drive through some mountain roads and small roads after the last highway. Along the way, they passed through some farmland and villages. When they passed through a small road with woods on both sides, they found a crossbar on the ground in front of the road, blocking their way. What's going on? Meng Yao stopped the car and looked at the crossbar in front of the road. Should I get off the car and move the crossbar? Tang Yun didn't think much because the crossbar wasn't big. Although it was difficult for her to move it alone, it wasn't a problem. No. Meng Yao stopped Tang Yun subconsciously. She used to travel with Shu a lot, so she had more experience than Tang Yun. Although Meng Yao had never seen a tree blocking the road before, she had heard people talk about it. Usually, other than a few natural trees, most of them were man-made. And the purpose of doing so was to block the road and rob. What's wrong? Tang Yun paused. I'm afraid there might be danger. Meng Yao locked the door and said nervously, don't tell me it's a robbery. Tang Yun jumped in fright. When she looked at the crossbar again, she was also shocked. The crossbar was neat and sharp. It didn't look like it was naturally broken. It looked like someone had cut it off and placed it there. As soon as Tang Yun finished her sentence, 2 black shadows appeared not far from the crossbar. Seeing that Meng Yao and the others didn't open the car door, they walked over and stood next to the driver's seat. They knocked on the window impatiently, get out, get out. Although Meng Yao had closed the window, the people outside were talking loudly. Meng Yao could still hear their words. Just from the way they dressed, she could tell that they weren't good people. Moreover, they appeared in front of the crossbar coincidentally. Their purpose was obvious. It wasn't the first time Meng Yao had been in danger. She'd been in the bank and at the amusement park, and she'd been in much more dangerous situations than this. But with Lin Yi by her side, she'd been able to get through it easily. But now, Lin Yi's practice was going crazy, and he was still unconscious. How was she going to deal with these 2 people? What are you doing? Meng Yao didn't dare open the window. She could only open a small gap and shouted. And you're a girl. One of the men laughed. I opened this mountain, and I planted this tree. If you want to pass through, you'll have to pay for the road. You want money. Meng Yao wasn't stupid. She immediately understood what the man was trying to say. Smart. The burly man chuckled and said, I don't need to say anything more. Hand over all your valuables. We brothers only want money, not cars. Once you give us the money, we'll help you move the hose. How much money do you want? Meng Yao asked. What, didn't you hear me? Take out all the money you have. ICPIC card, and tell me the password. The man said, thinking that he was being funny. Meng Yao frowned slightly. She did have a bank card, and she did ask her dad for quite a bit of money before coming to Westar village, but this money was supposed to be used to buy the ice spirit fruit. It seemed like she wouldn't be able to keep it. Of course, this was because Meng Yao didn't know the value of the fruit. If she did, she wouldn't care about this small amount of money. But if she didn't pay, they wouldn't be able to leave. Meng Yao clenched her teeth. We can give you the money, I'll throw the card and money out the window. I'll tell you the password too, but you have to let us go. Meng Yao was thinking that she could ask her dad to transfer the money to them when they reached Snowy Valley. There was no need to worry about the money she had now. Getting through here was the key. No, get off the car. We want to check it ourselves. The man didn't believe Meng Yao. Meng Yao didn't want to get off the car. She didn't want to cause more trouble, but this man was stubborn. Meng Yao was in a difficult position. We're girls, it's not convenient for us to get off the car. Here's the money and the card. I'll tell you the password now, you can call and check it. 1 million. The black-robed man and the other bald man looked at each other, and their eyes flashed with an extraordinary splendor. It wasn't the first time they robbed people, but they only robbed people who were on a road trip. They changed their target every time they got a shot, so they didn't get into trouble. Chapter 1782. Every time they robbed, they would only get 8 to 10,000 yuan. Sometimes, 30 to 50,000 yuan would be considered a big shot. After all, most people on a road trip wouldn't carry a lot of money in their pockets, and they didn't have a lot of savings in their bank cards. But this was the first time Meng Yao said that she had 1 million yuan in her bank card. Give me your card, I'll take a look. The man in black said. Okay. Meng Yao handed over her bank card without hesitation and said, the password is 5201. Meng Yao felt a little awkward saying the password herself. It was set by Shu, and Meng Yao didn't think anything was wrong when she told her, but now that she was saying it aloud, she felt like the number sounded like a sentence. Meng Yao thought that it sounded like a sentence? Meng Yao looked guiltily at Tang Yun, who was in the passenger seat. I love Lin Yi. Tang Yun smiled. What a coincidence, ha. However, anyone could see that there was a hint of bitterness in Tang Yun's smile. But in this kind of emergency, Tang Yun didn't want to dwell on it. Its shoes set, Meng Yao didn't know why she had to defend herself, but she did. After defending herself, she felt a little regretful. Wasn't it making things worse? I was just joking to ease the tense atmosphere. It's nothing. Tang Yun smiled slightly, and her expression returned to normal. Of course, the man in black called the bank after taking Meng Yao's bank card. When he heard that there was 1 million yuan in the bank card, his smile twisted into a ball, like a blooming chrysanthemum. It really is 1 million yuan. Ha, Baldy, we're rich. Get out, let us see if you have any other cards or money. After listening to the words of the black-shirt man, Baldy was very excited, but he was not satisfied. He knocked on the window even harder. Greed was endless, especially for two robbers. From their point of view, it didn't matter how much they robbed. Since they did it this time, they must have committed a serious crime. They might have to retire and find a place to live in seclusion. So, they must get as much as they could before leaving. Meng Yao thought that they would leave after getting the card, but 1 million wasn't enough to satisfy them. Not only was there the 1 million Chu Pingzhan had transferred to her before she left, but there was also a few tens of thousands of pocket money in her bank account. Wasn't this enough for her? She wanted more. We didn't bring much money with us, only a few thousand yuan. We've given you all our cards. You should at least leave us some living expenses, right? Mingyao's words were a little pleading. Normally, she was a prideful person, but at this moment, she had to lower her proud head in order to avoid unnecessary trouble and reach Snowy Valley faster. She had no choice but to bow down to the two robbers. A few thousand. How could we not believe it? Get out of the car. If it's only a few thousand, we don't want it. The bald man said. With more than 1 million, a few thousand was nothing to them. At the same time, the man was busy transferring the money through the phone. He was afraid that Meng Yao and the others would freeze the account once they left, and they'd be left with nothing. Meng Yao looked at Tang Yun helplessly. Yun, what do we do now? I don't think it's appropriate to get out of the car. I don't know. Tang Yun didn't know what to do. She realized that she was so weak when Lin Yi wasn't by her side. When Lin Yi was by her side, whether it was the assassins from Yellow Spring sect or the provocation at House Tang, Lin Yi would always be able to resolve them easily. But now, without Lin Yi, she felt so useless. At this moment, Tang Yun suddenly had a deep desire for strength. If she was also a practitioner, even if she was only at the early phase of golden class like Xiao Xiao, she would be able to deal with these two robbers easily, right? These two were as weak as ants in the eyes of Lin Yi and even Wu Qintian and Faubert, but they dared to cause trouble for them on the road. Hurry up, what are you waiting for? Get out of the car, or we won't be polite and smash your car. The man in black threw the card on the ground after transferring the money to Meng Yao and scolded her in the car. There's no choice, get out of the car. Meng Yao knew that there was no other way now that the two were really going to smash the car. They'd have to get out of the car after they broke the car's glass. They couldn't go forward, but reversing the car. Meng Yao didn't have Lin Yi's superb driving skills, and she wouldn't be able to handle the rugged path in the forest at all. She'd crash into a tree if she wasn't careful. Running away was out of the question. Since the decision was made, everyone didn't hesitate anymore. They opened the door and got out of the car, but Yushu didn't. She continued to press her hands on Lin Yi's arms, trying to cool down Lin Yi's body along the way. She didn't want to burn him and the car seat to ashes. Although Mo Kongwen and old Lin had put a fireproof blanket on the car seat, it was fine for a short period of time, but if it was too long, the blanket wouldn't work. The black-clothed man and the bald man's eyes lit up when they saw Meng Yao and Tang Yun's faces. They hadn't touched a woman for a long time, but even if they did, they would only be the cheap goods in the small salon. How could they compare to these two people in front of them? Meng Yao and Tang Yun were top-notch in terms of appearance and temperament. It would be strange if these two robbers weren't attracted to them. The black-clothed man and the bald man glanced at each other and understood the meaning behind each other's eyes. The two of them smiled and said, "Little girl, you said that you don't have money, so I'll believe you for the time being. But, playing with me in this wilderness should be very exciting, right? What are you doing?" Meng Yao and Tang Yun's faces were filled with panic. Although they asked that, they were 80% sure that these two robbers wanted to kill them. This was also the reason why they didn't want to get out of the car. Being beautiful was a good thing, but at this moment, it might not be a good thing. Chapter 1783. Alrighty. The bald man laughed as he reached out to grab Tang Yun. The two girls looked at the two's devilish smiles, and a trace of pain appeared on their faces. In this deep forest, they had no one to call for help. Lin Yi had always been by their side, protecting them all the time. Even when they were in danger, they had never felt despair. Even if Lin Yi wasn't here, there was still Wu Qintian, Faubert, and even General Wei Wu. They could hold them off for a while, but this time, they didn't bring anyone. Even General Wei Wu and Skybolt Pig were left in West Star Village. Skybolt Pig and General Wei Wu were ancient spiritual beasts. If they brought them to Snowy Valley, they would be blackmailed. Naturally, they couldn't bring them. Gooden, on the other hand, was weak and couldn't withstand the cold, so he couldn't travel with them. Because of this, the route that Mr. Mo drew was on the highway, so there shouldn't be any danger. But no matter how much he calculated, he forgot about the last part of the journey. If she knew that there would be trouble, Meng Yao wouldn't have taken this route. She'd rather take the long way around. Yao Yao sis, what are you doing? Why aren't you back yet? Can't you just give them money? Just when Meng Yao and Tang Yun were in despair, Yushu's voice came from the car. Yushu's voice also made the two men pause. Why was there another person in the car? Because the car was covered with a black film, the two men didn't know how many people were in the car. When they saw Meng Yao and Tang Yun get off, they thought that there were only two girls in the car, but they didn't expect that there was a third girl in the back seat. However, because of Yushu's voice, the two men hesitated. They weren't afraid of Yushu, but they were afraid that Yushu would suddenly attack them when they were doing their business. They might lose their lives then. Of course, they had a way, and that was to tie someone up with rope first. Then, they could do whatever they wanted. The black-clothed man and the baldy had been working together for many years, and they had a good understanding of each other's intentions. They left Meng Yao and Tang Yun at the same time and walked towards the back of the car. As far as they were concerned, it was impossible for Meng Yao and Tang Yun to escape. They were in the middle of nowhere, and it was impossible for them to escape without a car. The two of them walked to the back door and opened it, one on the left and one on the right. However, the scene in the back seat of the car made the two men stunned at the same time. What they didn't expect was that not only was there a girl in the back seat, there was also a man lying on his side in the back seat. The two of them were startled. They immediately turned their bodies to the side and shouted, "Get out of the car." "Oh, did they give you the money?" Yushu, on the other hand, looked at the man innocently. "My boyfriend actually has a bank card with him. It's not a lot, but it's still around 300,000. You guys want it?" "Yes. Of course." The two men heard that Yushu had around 300,000, and their faces immediately flashed with excitement. They didn't care about playing with girls anymore, they had to get the 300,000 first. With 300,000, they wouldn't have to worry about not having a girlfriend. Although the two beauties in front of them were like goddesses, in their eyes, money was more important. "My boyfriend is sick, he can't get up. The bank card is in the back pocket of his pants, I can't take it out." Yushu tried to lift Lin Yi's body, but she couldn't move him at all. "All right, girl, get out of the car, we brothers will find it ourselves. Just tell us the password." The black-clothed man impatiently urged Yushu to get out of the car. "Oh, okay." Yushu jumped out of the car and stood behind the black-clothed man. She secretly gave Meng Yao and Tang Yun a hand signal. Of course, the black-clothed man and the bald man didn't see all of this, because they couldn't wait to bend down and search Lin Yi's bank card. Although the black-clothed man felt that the car was a little too hot, he didn't suspect anything. After all, the car had been parked there for a long time, and the windows were closed. How could it not be hot? After Yushu left, Lin Yi's face suddenly turned red. Of course, the black-clothed man and the bald man didn't notice this strange change at all, because they were blinded by money. Tang Yun and Meng Yao saw Yushu's action and hand signal and were slightly stunned at first, but when they saw Yushu standing behind the black-clothed man and raising her right foot, they immediately understood what Yushu meant. Meng Yao and Tang Yun were wondering how Lin Yi had 300,000 in his bank card. But now, they understood. Shu was scamming people again. And so, Tang Yun and Meng Yao quickly walked behind the bald man, and at the same time, Yushu used all her strength to kick the man's back. Yushu had been carrying Lin Yi to the hotel every day for the past couple of days, and her strength had increased by leaps and bounds. The kick caught the man off guard, sending him sprawling on top of Lin Yi. On the other side, Tang Yun and Meng Yao moved as well. Both of them kicked the bald man into the car and closed the doors with Yushu. "Oh woo, oh woo," two mournful screams came from inside the car. Accompanied by bursts of burning smell, the screams became even more terrifying. However, the burning smell was getting stronger, and the screams were getting weaker and weaker. After a while, it was completely gone. When Yushu, Meng Yao, and Tang Yun opened the car door again, both of their bodies were burned, and they couldn't tell who was who from their faces. Obviously, they had already fainted. It was impossible for them to not faint from such intense burns. Yushu, one on the left and one on the right, tossed the two scalded kidnappers to the side of the road. She dusted off her hands. "Done. Let's go move the crossbar." Tang Yun and Meng Yao gave Yushu a thumbs up. How ruthless. She could even think of this kind of trick, using Lin Yi to burn the two kidnappers half to death. These two were really unlucky to meet Yushu. Chapter 1784. The three returned to the car after moving the plank. They didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly left the place. Tang Yun and Meng Yao, on the other hand, were still in shock. They admired Yushu very much. "Shu, thank goodness we have you. Otherwise, Yao Yao and I wouldn't know what to do." Tang Yun shivered when she thought of the perverted look in their eyes. The consequences would have been unimaginable if they had succeeded. Who told them to be so greedy? They're not satisfied even after taking 1,000,000. Yushu suddenly called out, "Oh no, how are we going to buy the ice spirit fruit for Shield Bro if we give them all the money?" "Don't worry, we'll just call Dad and ask him to transfer the money to me," Meng Yao sighed in relief. "As long as he's fine, the money is small." "You're right, Uncle Chu is rich now." Yushu nodded. Meng Yao didn't stop the car along the way until they arrived at a small town and checked into a hotel. The three of them could finally relax. This time, it was more scary than dangerous. However, Meng Yao and the others, who were far away in the town, didn't know that there was a huge piece of news recently. Dr. Kang's medicine company was undergoing a complete overhaul. Not only did they lower the prices of all their old products, but they also released many new medicines. Among them was Dr. Kang's 100 Pain Relief, which was similar to Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller, but its price was only half of Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller. Moreover, during the product launch, Kong Guifeng also said that this price was only the price before mass production. It would be even cheaper after mass production. In fact, this was a hint to everyone that their products were the cheapest. If Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller was cheaper than theirs, then their Dr. Kang's would definitely be cheaper. Not only that, Dr. Kang's medicine company's flagship product, Dr. Kang's Golden Creation, also lowered its price, and it was now half of Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. Not only that, Dr. Kang's Golden Creation was also released. Not only did it have all the effects of the Golden Creation, but it also had the effect of removing old scars. The price of this product was only the same as the old Golden Creation, and this made the name of Dr. Kang's medicine famous. Although Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's products were selling like hotcakes, it was still an old brand that was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Now that the price had dropped, the patients who had been buying Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine and painkillers naturally went into the embrace of Miracle Dr. Guan's golden creation medicine and painkillers after seeing the cheaper ones. Even if Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creation changed its formula and wasn't the same as before, the consumers didn't know about it. Plus, the formula that House Hidden Yu gave to House Kong was something that this medical family had gone through countless trials and tribulations. The effect might be slower than Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine, but because of the cheaper price, it would take over the market in an instant. What's more, there was a premium edition of Jinchuang medicine for comparison. It could completely remove old scars, and the price was only the same as the previous Jinchuang medicine. This kind of great discount made the entire consumer market excited. Moreover, with the support of the Hidden House Yu, Dr. Kang's medicine company released new products one after another. Among them, Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine was the most successful one. It received a good response as soon as it was released, and the sales kept rising. Dr. Kong looked at the money coming in every day, and the corner of his mouth almost reached his ears. Ha ha ha, Xiao Ming, you did well this time. This is great. It's all thanks to you that the Hidden House Yu can support us so much. Thank you for the compliment, Grandpa. Kong Ming was surprised that the Hidden House Yu would be so generous. In fact, how was the Hidden House Yu being generous? It was just that the Heavenly Elixir sect was very happy when they saw the formula, and they asked the House Yu not to mistreat House Kong. That was why the House Yu gave House Kong so many benefits. Moreover, these formulas were insignificant compared to the pill formula. Otherwise, the Hidden House Yu wouldn't be so generous. Chapter 1785. Recently, Xiaolong's position in House Kong had been completely marginalized. He wasn't allowed to participate in important matters anymore. He had become the manager of a pharmaceutical company's R&D department. Although this position sounded impressive outside, being the manager of the R&D department in Dr. Kong Medical Group, it was nothing in House Kong. So, Xiaolong tried his best to show off in front of Dr. Kong. Big bro, it's a little troublesome to acquire the small pharmaceutical factories. The factories aren't centralized, and it's not convenient to manage them all, but it's fine. Our House Kang's production line mainly produces the popular products, and those small factories can produce the less popular products. Each factory only needs to focus on one product, and we only need to send one of our own people to oversee the production. Of course, Big Bro is right. We can also expand the production line now and do it at the same time. This way, we won't delay production. Kong Ming said. Yes, Xiaolong's right. Xiaolong, you just need to keep the formula a secret. You don't need to get involved in business like this. Dr. Kong said to Xiaolong. Xiaolong's eyes flashed with unwillingness. He was originally the heir of House Kong, but now, he was completely marginalized. Fatty Lai and Guan Shuamin didn't think that Lin Yi's trip would cause such a huge incident at home. At first, when Dr. Kang's medical company held the product launch, Fatty Lai didn't pay much attention to it. He thought that they were making a loss and making a last struggle. But when Fatty Lai saw that Dr. Kang's golden creation and Baitonxio were flowing into the market, as if they weren't making a loss at all, it was already too late. The pharmacies that were working with House Lu seemed to have discussed it beforehand, and all of them refunded their orders. House Lu's stock was already on alert, and the refunds from the distributors were piling up like a mountain. Fatty Lai, a veteran in the business world, was stunned. The current situation was completely out of his expectations. Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creations cost was there for all to see. How could they sell it at such a cheap price? And where did their Baitonxio recipe come from? If their Golden Creations price reduction and Baitonksio's launch were because they stole Fatty Lie's company's formula, then the Golden Creations Special Edition and weight loss medicines launch proved that their formula didn't come from Miracle Dr. Guan's company. After all, even Guan Shuamin and Fatty Lie didn't have the Special Edition injury medicine recipe, let alone the weight loss medicine that had never been produced before. All signs pointed to Dr. Kang's medical company receiving support from some powerful faction. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to have so many new products. Plus, they'd have to rent a lot of production lines from smaller factories to keep the supply under such a high volume of sales. Miracle Dr. Kong definitely didn't have this kind of connections. Although Fatty Lie's guess was close to the truth, it was useless even if he guessed it correctly. Lin Yi wasn't home, and they didn't have a product to compete with him. What frustrated Fatty Lie the most was that Lin Yi's phone was turned off. Fatty Lie dialed and dialed, but the phone was still turned off. Left with no other choice, Fatty Lie went to Shuamin's house to discuss a plan with him. He didn't know that Lin Yi was afraid of being disturbed and turned off his phone. After that, he fainted. Tang Yun and the others didn't remember to turn on Lin Yi's phone. Elder Guan, what should we do about Dr. Kang's pharmaceutical group? Fatty Lie went straight to the point. I can't get through to the boss, but judging from the current situation, if we don't take some measures, we in House Lu won't be able to hold on much longer. You can't get through to Lil Yi. Why don't you try calling Tang Yun and the others? They should be together, right? Shuamin said after some thought. I forgot about that. Fatty Lie was embarrassed. He was too worried and didn't know that Tang Yun and the others were together with Lin Yi. He quickly dialed Tang Yun's number when Shuamin reminded him. This time, the call went through. Tang Yun's voice came from the other side. Mr. Lai. It's me, sis-in-law. Is the boss with you? I have something urgent to talk to him about. Fatty Lie dialed Tang Yun's number and let out a sigh of relief. It was as if he found his pillar of support. House Kang's incident was sudden, but with Lin Yi there, they should be able to defeat them. Fatty Lie remembered that Lin Yi had said that these two drugs were just testing the waters. If the market responded well, they would release other special drugs. It was Fatty Lie who had advised Lin Yi not to release all the products at once. They needed to do it step by step. That was how they managed to create a lasting sensation in the market. Of course, if it wasn't for House Kang's incident, Fatty Lie's approach would be correct. He could ensure that Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company would always appear in the eyes of the people and not be forgotten. However, Dr. Kong Medical Company made this move and completely messed up Fatty Lie's plan. Currently, if they wanted to compete with Dr. Kong Medical Company, they had to lower their prices and release other products that could compete with them. They had to release more effective medicines to get back the market. After all, although the price of Dr. Kang's Golden Creation was high, it was an old brand. Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company's injury medicine might have similar effects, but the brand's history was too short. They only won with the price advantage. Now that Dr. Kong suddenly sold their Golden Creation at half the price of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company, the consumers would naturally switch to the old brand. Lin Yi, he. Tang Yun glanced at Lin Yi, who was unconscious on the sofa, and sighed. Mr. Lai, if there's anything, just tell me. Lin Yi can't answer the phone right now, then. This matter still needs the boss to deal with. Why don't we ask him to call me back when it's convenient? Fatty Lie said. He's training. If there's anything, just tell me. I'll help you pass the message. Tang Yun hesitated. Although Fatty Lie was a trustworthy person, Lin Yi had made too many enemies. If the enemies accidentally knew that Lin Yi had gone mad, they might come to find trouble. That was why Tang Yun didn't tell Fatty Lai about Lin Yi. Chapter 1786. The situation is terrible, above. Fatty Lai paused. Although he didn't understand, he could guess that Lin Yi wasn't in a good position to answer the phone. Otherwise, Tang Yun wouldn't have said that. So, he stopped looking for Lin Yi. Instead, he told Tang Yun everything that happened in the company recently. Tang Yun didn't think that Dr. Kang's company would retaliate at this time. She didn't know what to do. Mr. Lai, why don't you wait for a while? I'll discuss it with you and call you back. Okay, sis-in-law, I'll wait for your call. Fatty Lai said. Tang Yun hung up and Meng Yao saw that Tang Yun's face didn't look too good. What happened? Dr. Kang's Golden Creation lowered the price of their medicine, and they released a lot of special medicines to compete with Miracle Dr. Guan's company. Tang Yun told Meng Yao and Yushu what Fatty Lai said. Yao Yao, Lin Yi is in a coma now. What should we do? Fatty Lai can't make up his mind. Then, can we lower the price as well? Meng Yao may be the daughter of Pingzhan Industries, but she didn't know much about business. If they lower the price, we should be able to win some market share, right? I don't know. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi worriedly. She finally understood the saying, misfortune never comes alone. It was fine before, but trouble came when Lin Yi went berserk. Sister Yun, why don't you let Fatty Lai call Uncle Chu to discuss a solution? After all, Uncle Chu has been doing business for many years, he's experienced. Yushu suggested. Yeah, we can let Dad think of something. Mingyao's eyes lit up after hearing Shu's words. Even Lin Yi doesn't know much about the business side of things. That's why he doesn't have to do anything. If we can lower the price, we can let him and Dad discuss the other things. Okay, I'll call him back now. Tang Yun didn't dare delay and called Fatty Lai back. Sister-in-law, is there any news? Fatty Lai asked. Lin Yi can't answer the phone right now, but I discussed it with Yao Yao and Shu. You can call Uncle Chu to discuss a solution. Should we lower the price as well? Tang Yun asked. Discuss. Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. He was a veteran in business, and House Lu had no lack of business geniuses. The second son of House Lu was also a veteran in business, but they didn't have any new products to compete with Miracle Dr. Kang's medical company. Just lowering the price wouldn't bring back too many customers. Were they supposed to be cheaper than Miracle Dr. Kang's medical company? Miracle Dr. Kang's Golden Creation was currently priced at 49, and Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine was priced at 99. The difference between the two was double. Unless Fatty Lai sold it at 29 or 39, there was no way he could turn the situation around. But 29 and 39 didn't have much money left after deducting the channel fees. Fatty Lai, on the other hand, was in a huge debt. The factories were basically mortgaged after they were built, and if he didn't make this mistake, with Fatty Lai's current development model, he'd be able to make a lot of money in the next few years, even if he wouldn't see much profit in the beginning. But he didn't know that Dr. Kang's medical company would interfere and cause him to be in a difficult situation. If Lin Yi could release a few more special medicines, even if the injury medicine wasn't profitable, he could still sell it. But right now, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company only had injury medicine and painkillers. These two products could be found in Dr. Kang's medical company, and the price was half of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's. This was obviously targeted at Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai believed that if he lowered the price, Dr. Kang's medical company would sell it at a lower price. Because they had other products to support them. Just the special edition Golden Creation weight loss medicine were enough to make Dr. Kang's medical company earn a lot of money. Golden Creation and Beitong Shao were just supplementary products. What's wrong? Tang Yun heard the hesitation in Fatty Lie's words and asked curiously. Nothing. Fatty Lie smiled bitterly. I'll think of something. If boss is free, ask him to call me back as soon as possible. Okay, I got it. Tang Yun was anxious, but nothing was more important than waking up Lin Yi. The company lost money and could earn it back, but Lin Yi's situation couldn't be delayed. Fatty Lie sighed. Although he didn't know what happened to Lin Yi, if he couldn't answer the phone in this situation, then he really couldn't make it. How is it? Although Guan Shuamin only worked in the company in name, it was still Lin Yi's company. He still cared about it. Boss didn't answer the phone. He might be doing something more important. Fatty Lie smiled bitterly. Fatty Lie smiled bitterly. I've already told sister-in-law to get back to me as soon as he's free. Then hold on until Lin Yi comes back. He must have a way. Guan Shuamin smiled bitterly. Shuamin had faith in Lin Yi. That's not all Lin Yi has. He has a lot more, and every single one of them is a priceless treasure. We can only hold on for now. Fatty Lie nodded. As long as they grit their teeth and get through this, when Lin Yi comes back, he can give Dr. Kong Medical Group a great counterattack. But the situation was worse than Fatty Lie expected. At first, Fatty Lie thought that even if Lin Yi didn't call today, he would call 2 or 3 days later. But he didn't. This made Fatty Lie worried, and he had to announce that the factory would temporarily stop production. But even if they stopped production, the workers would still get paid unless they were laid off. But many of the workers had just signed the contract and it hadn't even expired yet. If they were laid off, they would have to pay a huge sum of compensation. This was undoubtedly a huge sum for Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. So, they could only stop production and not lay off. Fatty Lie thought that as long as they could hold on until Lin Yi came back, everything would be fine. But if they laid off the workers, although Fatty Lie could gather the money, what would happen in the future? How would the factory resume production after Lin Yi came back? At the same time, Fatty Lie had no choice but to lower the price to promote the medicine. The original 99 yuan Miracle Dr. Guan injury medicine was actually 33 yuan per bottle. Chapter 1787. The situation is bad, however. Lu Tianyi didn't have any new sales information yet, but Fatty Lie saw the promotional advertisement from Dr. Kang's medical company. To celebrate the launch of Dr. Kang's rheumatism ointment and stomach remedy, anyone who bought Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine, Golden Creation, rheumatism ointment, or stomach remedy during the event would be able to enjoy a buy one get one free event. In other words, anyone who bought the above 4 medicines would be able to get a bottle of Dr. Kang's Golden Creation or Baitonxio. Golden Creation and Baitonxio, on the other hand, were also buy 2 get 1 free. In other words, anyone who bought 2 bottles of Golden Creation or 2 bottles of Baitonxio, or 1 bottle of Golden Creation and 1 bottle of Baitonxio would be able to get a bottle of Golden Creation or Baitonxio. This way, Fatty Lie's sales method was completely useless. Even if he lowered the price, they would only be buying 1 get 2 free. Not only was the price 1 yuan more expensive than Dr. Kang's medical company, but the choices weren't flexible either. The brand wasn't as old as Dr. Kang's medical company. Under these circumstances, Fatty Lie was at his wit's end. Although the current price was still a distance away from the cost price, a product couldn't just be considered as the cost. He had to subtract the cost price from the wholesale price, and then subtract the marketing expenses. Only then would he be able to get the final profit. W quan when W quan, but now, buying 1 get 2 free wasn't profitable anymore. He couldn't just let the pharmacies sell their products for nothing, could he? At the very least, he had to leave a certain amount of profit for them. Otherwise, who would sell their products? Fatty Lie had expected this from Dr. Kang's side, but he couldn't do anything about it. He had to sell his stock at a low price because he had no other choice. The funds he had were only enough to pay the workers this month, and the new production line had been shut down a long time ago. Quan compared to Fatty Lie's difficulties, Dr. Kang's family was celebrating. After such a long time under Miracle Dr. Guan's pressure, they finally made a beautiful comeback and took back Miracle Dr. Guan's market share. Although Jinchuang medicine and Baitongxiu were consumables, it was impossible to buy them every day. A family would only buy them once or twice in a period of time. However, in a family, there would always be people who would buy Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine, rheumatism ointment, special edition of Jinchuang medicine, and special stomach medicine. The free gifts of these medicines were enough for the whole family. In addition to Dr. Kang's strong promotion, not many people chose Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine company's products. Looking at the mountain of inventory, House Lu's face was full of worry. Most of the refunds from the distributors were paid by House Lu because Fatty Lie had no money left. All his funds were invested in building the production line. However, no matter how rich the Lu family was, their liquidity was limited. Faced with more and more returns, the Lu family had emptied all of their assets. This caused some internal strife within the Lu family. The first to be unhappy was the second son of House Lu, Lu Tianli. "Father, it's only a matter of time before Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company goes bankrupt. Why do we still have to invest in it? There's no way to get this money back." Seeing that House Lu's assets were all gone, Lu Tianli, as the person in charge of the business, naturally objected. "Tianli, this is nothing." Lu Zhenhu shook his head. "You didn't attend the meeting of the noble houses. You don't know how important Lin Yi is to us. As long as Lin Yi comes back, everything will be fine. The money you lost will be earned back sooner or later." "Then what if Lin Yi doesn't come back?" Even Fatty Lie said that he couldn't contact Lin Yi. "Who knows where he went?" Lu Tianli said. "Father, that Lin Yi may be a practitioner, and he may be strong, but we don't have any practitioners. We only focus on business. If we go bankrupt because of this, then in the future, all right, Tianli, that's enough." Lu Zhenhu waved his hand. "There are no practitioners now, but that doesn't mean there won't be any in the future. I think Jing Jing is a very good seedling. I heard that Miracle Dr. Lin is also an alchemist. If he manages to refine a foundation establishment pill, we can get one for Jing Jing. When Jing Jing becomes an expert, our Lu family will really rise to the ranks of the Cultivators Association. This is the foundation for us to establish ourselves in the future." Lu Tianli still wanted to say something, but he gave up after hearing his father's words. "Tianli, there's a saying you have to understand. Helping someone in a time of need is something they'll remember for the rest of their life, but the icing on the cake can only be exchanged for temporary benefits." Tianli said. "Miracle Dr. Lin isn't back yet, and if we help Fatty Lie now, Miracle Dr. Lin will definitely remember our kindness. But if we don't do anything now, then..." "Heh, House Yu used to be such a powerful existence, but now they're either dead or crippled, leaving only the crippled Yu Kun and his cousin Yu Haitian to take over House Yu. House Yu's assets are enough for them to live a rich life, but it's impossible for them to become a noble house again." Lu Tianli's expression was a little uncertain, but since his father said so, he nodded. "All right, but we don't have much money left. If this continues, we won't be able to hold on much longer." Lu Zhenhu didn't care about the family's wealth, but he knew how serious the situation was after hearing Tianli's words. He sighed. "Jing Jing, what do you think?" "We'll bet everything we have on this," Lu Jinghan said after some thought. "We don't have a way out. We can either retreat now or hold on till the end. Once Lin Yi makes a comeback, he won't mistreat us. But what if he can't make a comeback? Tianli asked. Then we'll just start from scratch. Lu Jinghan shrugged. Dad, don't worry. If we really lose everything, then we'll start all over again. Tianli nodded. Since his daughter said so, he could only continue to support Fatty Lai. The wholesale price was very high at the beginning, and now that the price was lowered, even if the distributors didn't return the goods, House Lu would still have to compensate the distributors with a large amount of money. Fatty Lai couldn't take out this amount of money because he had invested all his money into the new production line and factory building. Only House Lu, as the distributor, could take it out temporarily. But as more and more people returned the goods, not only House Lu, but even Fatty Lai was starting to panic. Although Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company had its glory days, it was still too inexperienced. How could it compare to the old Dr. Kang's medical company? There was no doubt about the outcome of this market war. Dr. Kang would be the winner. Fatty Lai's days felt like years, but he gritted his teeth and persevered. He believed that as long as Lin Yi came back, all the problems would be solved. Chapter 1788. Chapter 1798. Arriving at Snowy Valley, the road ahead was getting more and more difficult, but Meng Yao had learned her lesson. She opened the sunroof and had Tang Yun use the binoculars to observe the road ahead. If something was wrong, they would immediately turn around and take a detour. Last time, it was because of Shu's plan that they were able to escape. If they met another robber, Meng Yao didn't know if she would be as lucky as them. If it wasn't for the two robbers' greed, they wouldn't have ended up like this. However, little Shu was also smart. She could see that these two people were extremely greedy, so she tricked them. If they weren't greedy again and again, they wouldn't have ended up like this. The road ahead is a bit rough. There are weeds everywhere, but there shouldn't be any danger. Tang Yun reported the road condition along the way, making Meng Yao feel more at ease. But it wasn't surprising. This was the kind of place where no one lived. Under normal circumstances, other than some expeditions, no one would come here. How far are we from Snowy Valley? How come I don't feel cold at all? Meng Yao was curious. The temperature here wasn't high, but there were trees and weeds. It didn't look like an extremely cold place. There should be around 10 kilometers left, but the road is rough. We might have to take a longer detour. Tang Yun said after comparing the coordinates on the map with the GPS. There were no roads here, so they could only make sure that they were going in the right direction. As for the specific route, they would have to find it themselves. Although Mo Kongwen had drawn the route map for them, they could only rely on themselves to adapt to the situation when there was no road for them. Hold on, we should be there today. Meng Yao had been driving for the past few days, and she was exhausted. But among the three girls, only she and Shu knew how to drive. Tang Yun didn't know how to drive, and Shu couldn't leave Lin Yi's side. So, Meng Yao had to drive alone. Finally, after a morning and afternoon, in the evening, the car finally passed through this jungle that was very difficult to pass through. However, after the jungle, there was a yellow wasteland. There was no vegetation here, and there were no birds or beasts. It could be said that this place was like the land of the dead in the movies. This kind of strange scene, especially under the illumination of the setting sun, seemed even more eerie and desolate, causing everyone's heart to shiver for no reason. What is this place? Tang Yun looked at the map in her hand. If it weren't for the fact that there was no problem with the direction, she would have thought that she was on the wrong path. I don't know, but the route given by Mr. Mo shouldn't be wrong. He wouldn't lie to us. Meng Yao increased the speed of the car. It was a barren wasteland, but the road conditions were much better than before, allowing the car to move faster. Unknowingly, Tang Yun sneezed and frowned. It's so cold. Meng Yao felt a chill down her spine after hearing Tang Yun's words. Previously in the forest, everyone was extremely hot, especially with Lin Yi and Shu, two natural furnaces. However, after coming to Wasteland, everyone felt the temperature dropped significantly. Even after Meng Yao turned off the sunroof and air conditioner, the cold could still penetrate through the car and into everyone's body. It's so cool. Yushu breathed out in relief. Along the way, she was dizzy from the heat, but after arriving here, she felt much better. Could it be that we are already close to Snowy Valley? The strong temperature difference made Tang Yun suspect that they weren't far from Snowy Valley. According to the map, it shouldn't be far from here. It seems like we found the right place. Meng Yao looked at the location on the map and GPS and let out a deep breath. Finally. We're almost there. It should be. Tang Yun nodded. If we hurry up, we might be able to reach Snowy Valley before the sun sets. This place was too barren. Compared to the forest before, everyone felt a sense of fear. They really didn't want to stay in this lifeless place for a second longer. Meng Yao increased the speed of the car and drove according to the coordinates on the GPS. Although there was no map here, and the GPS showed a huge blank space, as long as they knew the exact coordinates, they wouldn't go the wrong way. They didn't know when it started, but snowflakes started falling from the sky, and from the thin layer of snow on the ground, it turned into a thick layer of white. Meng Yao felt that it all happened in the blink of an eye. The white snow made Meng Yao slow down the car. After all, safety was the most important thing when driving in the snow. It's so cold here. If she didn't come here herself, Tang Yun wouldn't have known that there was such a magical place in this world. There was a forest not far away, but after a while, it was a barren land, followed by a thick layer of white snow. The environment here couldn't be judged by normal standards. Yun, you seem to be afraid of the cold. Meng Yao asked Tang Yun. I can't say that I'm afraid of the cold. It's just that I'm more sensitive to cold temperatures. But in winter, when the stove goes out in the middle of the night, I'm the one who can withstand the cold the most. Tang Yun said. As they moved forward, there was a depression. The terrain was getting lower and lower, as if it was a natural valley. The snow was getting heavier and heavier. This place could be considered a world of snow. It was hard to imagine that the weather here in August would be this cold. This should be the area of the Snow Valley, right? Meng Yao said as she looked at the coordinates on the GPS. It was all white in front of her, and she could only see a few dozen meters away. Anything further than that was all she could see. It was just a blur of fog. It should be. Let's look around. Where is the Snow Valley? Tang Yun frowned as well. The closer they got to the destination, the harder it was to find the target. They couldn't wander around in the snow, could they? There was a limit to the petrol in the car. If they used it all, how would they get back? However, just as they were getting lost, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the car. He shouted, "Who are you?" Meng Yao jumped in fright. She didn't expect someone to suddenly appear here. She quickly stopped the car. In fact, even if Meng Yao ran over, she wouldn't be able to hit the person. This person was a patrolling disciple of the Snow Valley. He had the strength of an Earth-class early phase. With this kind of strength, Meng Yao couldn't kill him even if she wanted to. #target =_ blank. Chapter 1789. This is the territory of Snow Valley. If you are a backpacker or an explorer, please stop. The person looked weak, but there was an indescribable sense of authority in his voice. The weirdest thing was that this person was only wearing a white shirt in this snowy place, but he didn't seem to be cold at all. This person. Is he a disciple of Snow Valley? Meng Yao was sure of his identity after hearing what the person said. She let out a sigh of relief and opened the window, but as soon as the window was opened, a gust of cold wind blew into their faces. Both Meng Yao and Tang Yun couldn't help but shiver. Shu, on the other hand, seemed to be very relaxed. Perhaps it had something to do with the big stove she was hugging. No, close the window, I'll go down and talk to him. Tang Yun saw that Meng Yao was shivering in the cold and said. Although they had brought long johns in the car, they didn't expect Snow Valley to be this cold. Mo Kongwen and Old Lin also neglected this point, so Meng Yao couldn't help but complain when they arrived at this place. Can you go? Meng Yao was a little worried. It's fine, although I'm cold, I can withstand it more than you guys. Tang Yun opened the door and got off the car. She respectfully greeted the patrolling disciple. Hello, we are heading to the Snowy Valley. Could you please lead the way for us? To the Snow Valley. The patrolling disciple was slightly stunned. He glanced at Tang Yun, but did not see anything special about her. As an ancient sect, Snow Valley naturally had some dealings with other sects, but no matter how he looked at Tang Yun, she did not look like a cultivator, let alone a disciple of other sections. We want to buy some treasures. Tang Yun saw that the patrolling disciple was confused, so she directly told him what they wanted. So you're here to buy treasures? The patrolling disciple realized. Every ancient sect had their own way of earning money. Ice Palace earned money through trials, Sky Elixir sect earned money through selling pills, and Snow Valley earned money through selling treasures. Because of the geographical environment of the Snow Valley, in the same month of the year, different locations nearby could produce different climates and temperatures. Under these climates and temperatures, many spiritual herbs could be grown. Even the Heavenly Elixir sect was one of the customers of the Snow Valley. So when Tang Yun said her intention, the patrolling disciple didn't doubt it at all. Those who could find this place to buy treasures were usually recommended by other sects or families with similar status. Holy Church, stay here and don't move. I need to return to the sect and report to the elder on duty, said the patrolling disciple. Okay, thank you. Tang Yun said gratefully. She didn't think that things would go so smoothly. After all, when Lin Yi talked about the path to the Ice Palace, it was so difficult, and they had to participate in trials. But in the Snow Valley, buying treasures seemed to be a matter of course. After the patrolling disciple finished speaking, he casually threw a tag on the car next to Tang Yun and disappeared into the snow. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. Tang Yun looked at the tag on the car strangely. On the tag, she saw, Patrolling Disciple 15, waiting to report, and on the tag, there was a symbol that she didn't understand that looked like a snowy mountain, but after seeing these words, Tang Yun could roughly guess the meaning behind it. Other than that person, there must be other patrolling disciples, and the other patrolling disciples wouldn't ask anything after seeing this tag. Thinking of this, Tang Yun returned to the car and patiently waited for the news. Not long after, a disciple of the Snow Valley who was dressed exactly the same as the previous disciple appeared beside the carriage. However, after seeing the tag on the carriage, he quietly left without saying a word. It seemed that this was a long-standing rule. The patrolling disciple 15 quickly returned to the Snow Valley, and when he was about to see the elder on duty, he was told by other disciples that the Valley Master had gathered all the elders for a meeting in the meeting hall. The elder on duty had also gone, and if he wanted to see the elder on duty, he could only wait at the door of the meeting hall. The patrolling disciple 15 knew the rules and didn't dare to disturb. He came to the door of the meeting hall and stood respectfully at the side, waiting for the elder on duty. There were other disciples here who also had matters to discuss with the elder on duty. The other elders were also waiting quietly like him. At this time, in the meeting hall, there were 5 people of different ages sitting. Some looked very young, some looked old. Sitting in the main seat was a young woman in her 20s, and beside her was an old woman who looked to be in her 70s or 80s. Of these two, the young one was the current Valley Master of the Snow Valley, Sydney, and the old woman beside her was the Grand Elder of the Snow Valley. The other two men and one woman were the 3 Heaven-class Elders of the Snow Valley. Sydney was 28 this year, and had just broken through to Heaven class not long ago. As for the other elders, the strongest one was only in the middle stage of Heaven class. Looking at the entire Snow Valley, other than the Grand Elder who was at the peak of the late stage of Heaven class, no one else had reached this level. This was also the thing that the Snow Valley was most worried about. As one of the 4 great ancient sects, the Snow Valley had once been glorious and prosperous. However, with the departure of the previous Valley Master, it began to decline. The 2 great water cultivation sects that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Ice Palace had become a bit lacking in manpower. What worried the Snow Valley most was that the Ice Palace had actually found an inheritor, and it was said that the inheritor had a rare ice physique. This made the Snow Valley feel an unprecedented pressure. Although the Snow Valley was once one of the 4 great sects, but the Heaven class meeting focused on current strength, not how glorious one was in the past. Therefore, finding an inheritor with a suitable physique became the most important thing for the Snow Valley. Of course, it wasn't just the Snow Valley. All the ancient sects that practiced the 5 elements cultivation were all looking for their inheritors. Because only an inheritor could open the Heaven class island, and let the peak of the late stage of Heaven class to cross that barrier. The Ice Palace and the Snow Valley were both water element sections. Of course, although the Snow Valley was called the Snow Valley, what they cultivated was a mist element mental cultivation method. And the inheritor of the water element, the 3 inheritors of mist, water, and ice, had to be present in order to fulfill the conditions to activate the water element. Sydney's physique could only be said to be an ordinary Yin physique. Although this physique was not considered good, it was already the best physique in the Snow Valley. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to break through to Heaven class at the age of 28. For a Heaven class, this age was already very heaven-defying. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1790. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Apart from Rock Candy, who had a fake ice heart jade bone physique, anyone who could reach Heaven rank in their 20s was already a genius among geniuses. Although Ice Palace's Xiao Qing looked very young, it was only because she had used some kind of pill to maintain her youthful appearance. Sanctuary. But Sydney looked even younger, at least from her appearance. She didn't look much older than Rock Candy. Moreover, 10 years wasn't much of a difference to Heaven rank experts who could extend their lifespan. But Sydney still felt a little conflicted. At the thought of Rock Candy, Xueli and the Supreme Elder were filled with a deep sense of jealousy. Rock Candy's physique was already good enough. If she could use an Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, then she could perfectly receive the inheritance. But before the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill was refined, the news that Ice Palace had found a Ian Cold physique inheritor came. This made Xuegu's eyes red with jealousy. Why did Ice Palace get all the good stuff? So, these days, the Grand Elder felt like menopause was coming again. Every time he thought of this, he would gather the elders in the sect to discuss countermeasures. But no matter how they discussed, the final result was the same. The person with the best physique in Xuegu was Sydney, but to use this physique to understand the inheritance, that was basically impossible. Even if she used the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, there was no guarantee that it would be able to change her physique. Grand Elder, Valley Master, I have an idea. I wonder if it will work. The one who spoke was a Heaven rank Elder of Xuegu, surnamed Zhang. Sanctuary. Oh. What do you think? The Grand Elder's eyes lit up as he quickly asked. If we, Xuegu, refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill and give it to Palace Master Rock Candy. Would she give the Ian Cold Physique inheritor to us? Elder Zhang said. This. The Grand Elder frowned, as if he was considering the feasibility of Elder Zhang's words. But after thinking for a while, he still shook his head and said, I'm afraid it won't work. If it was our Snow Valley, would we do the exchange? This. Elder Zhang was a little speechless. Indeed, he had thought too simply. An inheritor was not only a peak late-stage heaven rank expert, but also the person who was most likely to step into the heavenly Tao. Therefore, every sect treasured it greatly. How could they exchange it so easily? Supreme Elder, I think Elder Zhang's words might sound a little unrealistic, but if you think about it carefully, it might not be impossible. Shueli said, after all, the heavenly stage island is the goal of all the ancient sects and ancient families. Although it is possible to open the heavenly stage island if the inheritors of the 5 elements and the inheritors of the water element are not complete, the success rate will be greatly reduced. So, for the sake of the big picture, I don't think the Ice Palace will refuse. Shaoli is right. Once our Ice Palace loses an inheritor, it will be much more difficult to open the island. If we can really refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, we can give it a try. The Great Elder pondered for a moment and said. Then I'll contact the Ice Palace right now. If they agree, we'll try our best to find someone who can refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. Shueli said. As for the heaven and earth treasures needed to refine the Ice Heart Pill, she did not have to worry about them. The Snow Valley was famous for producing heaven and earth treasures. Although it was a little difficult to collect the materials needed to refine the Ice Heart Pill, it was not a difficult task for the Snow Valley. The meeting came to an end. Shueli went to contact the Ice Palace, Highest Elder went back to cultivate, and the other 3 elders went back to their respective duties. Elder Zhang, there are a few people outside the Snow Valley. They say they're here to buy treasures, do you? Seeing Elder Zhang come out, the patrolling disciple immediately went to greet him. Today, Elder Zhang was on duty. Everything in the Snow Valley had to be done by Elder Zhang. Oh. Then bring them to the guest hall to see me. The Snow Valley didn't reject anyone who wanted to buy treasures. This was also the source of income for the Snow Valley. Because of its geographical location, the Snow Valley was different from the Ice Palace. Other than a naturally formed depression, there was nothing else. There were no dangerous spirit beasts, nor were there steep cliffs. It couldn't be a training ground, so the Snow Valley couldn't start a training ground. They could only rely on the special climate and environment to plant treasures to exchange for money. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu didn't think that the elders of the Snow Valley would be so easygoing. They actually agreed to receive them in the guest hall. This was out of Meng Yao and the others' expectations. After all, an ancient sect was a high and mighty existence. Sending an elder to receive them was a bit too much. However, what they did not know was that the Snow Valley had always been like this. This was how the Snow Valley survived. As for why the elders had to receive them, it was because the value of the heaven and earth treasures could only be decided by the elders. The other disciples of the Snow Valley could not decide on their own. So, instead of letting them receive them, it was better for the elders to come out personally. This is our Snow Valley's elder on duty, Elder Zhang. If you need any treasures, you can discuss it with him. The patrolling disciple bowed politely to Elder Zhang in the reception hall, then left to continue his task of patrolling the valley. Greetings, Elder Zhang. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu all imitated the Jianghu people and bowed to Elder Zhang. However, Yushu was carrying Lin Yi, so it was a bit difficult for her to do so. Elder Zhang glanced at Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu, a trace of doubt in his eyes. Even a sky-class master couldn't directly see through a practitioner's strength, but a sky-class master could tell if the person in front of him was a practitioner or not. But Elder Zhang didn't feel the existence of pure qi in the three of them, so he was a little confused. The people who came here to buy heavenly treasures were all cultivators from various sects or clans. Ordinary people would not know of the existence of the Snow Valley. But the three people in front of him made him a little uncertain about their identities. I heard that you need heavenly treasures. But you don't seem to be practitioners. Yes, we are not practitioners, Meng Yao admitted readily. Meng Yao admitted it straightforwardly. She knew that pretending was useless in front of a real practitioner, so she might as well admit it directly to avoid any misunderstandings. But the person she's carrying on her back is a practitioner. Elder Zhang didn't notice Lin Yi before. Although Yushu was carrying someone, it must be a patient. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1791. Shuegu, Part 2. Shuegu had seen a lot of things like this. A lot of sick practitioners would come here to ask for medicine, and naturally, they'd be carried here. But when Meng Yao said that he was a practitioner, Elder Zhang looked at Lin Yi and walked over, wanting to test Lin Yi's strength when Yushu called out, "Careful." Oh. Elder Zhang paused, but he could feel the heat coming from Shu and Lin Yi as well. His eyes narrowed. Fire element. Deviated. We're not sure if he's a fire element, but he's definitely deviated. Meng Yao said, "We're here to buy treasures for him. If I'm not mistaken, you're here for the ice spirit's fruit, right?" Elder Zhang saw Lin Yi's condition, and guessed what they were thinking. These years, there'd been a few fire element practitioners who'd come here to ask for the fruit. Elder Zhang had experience in this area. Of course, as precious as the fire spirit's fruit was, the ice spirit's fruit was of no use to Shuegu at all. Shuegu's practitioners were all mist practitioners, and even if they deviated, they'd still need the fire spirit's fruit. Eating the ice spirit's fruit would probably kill them instantly. As a result, the ice spirit's fruit was only a way for them to earn money or exchange. But in terms of value, naturally, it wasn't cheap. The few fruits they'd traded earlier had all brought them even more valuable treasures. Elder Zhang's eyes are sharp. We're here for the ice spirit's fruit. The miss had never thought that there'd be a day where she'd flatter someone, but she said it so naturally, as if it was only natural for Lin Yi. Even she was surprised. I wonder what heavenly materials and earthly treasures you would like to offer in exchange. Elder Zhang said, the ice spirit fruit is a special product of the Snow Valley. There is only one of them and the production is extremely low. It is one of the most precious treasures of the Snow Valley, so if you can't take out a heavenly resource of equal or higher value to exchange for it, then we won't make a move. We don't have any treasures, but I heard that you can buy them with money. May I know how much the fruit is worth? Meng Yao was planning to buy it anyway. She didn't have any treasures at all. Purchase with money. Elder Zhang paused. Only those hidden houses and small sects that didn't have much good stuff would come to the Snowy Valley to buy some treasures, but those were just normal stuff. The ice spirit fruit had never been sold for money, and the few that were sold were all bartered. Yes. Meng Yao nodded. I may be an elder of the Snow Valley, but I really can't decide the price of the fruit. Of course, even if you wanted to trade, I can't make the decision. It's all up to the Valley Master. Elder Zhang said, why don't you guys rest in the guest rooms nearby? I'll get back to you guys after I ask the Valley Master about the price. I'll follow Elder Zhang's orders. What else could Meng Yao say after that? Meng Yao was already very happy with this result. Since Elder Zhang didn't reject them on the spot, it meant that there was a chance. Meng Yao and the others were led to a guest room by the Snowy Valley disciple, and they settled down for the time being. Elder Zhang left for an entire night. When Meng Yao and the others arrived, it was already dusk, so it was normal for him to come back the next day. They weren't in a rush. In fact, Elder Zhang went to see the Valley Master, Sydney. But Sydney was discussing with the Ice Palace Master, Crystal Candy, whether or not they could give Xiao Xiao to the valley. Elder Zhang didn't dare disturb them, and decided to wait until the next morning to ask. However, the next morning, when Elder Zhang met Valley Master Xueli's face was very gloomy. Her originally delicate and fair face was now as dark as it could be. After seeing Elder Zhang, she only nodded slightly. Although Xueli was the direct disciple of the Supreme Elder and the previous Old Valley Master, she was only a Heaven Rank Early Stage Master, while Elder Zhang was a Heaven Rank Middle Stage Master. Previously, Xueli was very respectful when she saw him. This time, something must have happened. Valley Master, what happened? Elder Zhang paused. He didn't have time to talk about the ice spirit fruit anymore. Bingtang politely declined the conditions proposed by our Snow Valley. Xueli sighed. Could it be that the Ice Palace didn't think about it? Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, each element needs at least 2 inheritors to have a high chance of opening the island. If there's only one inheritor, it'll be very, very difficult. Elder Zhang said weirdly. Of course Bingtang knows, but she hinted to me that those people have already found a candidate for the inheritor of the water element. Xueli said helplessly, so, together with the inheritor of the ice element from the Ice Palace, there will be 2 inheritors of the water element. Although it's safer to have 3, which sect would be willing to give away a master at the peak of the late phase of Heaven rank and a future master of the Way of Heaven? That's true. Elder Zhang nodded, a regretful expression on his face. By the way, Elder Zhang, why have you come to find me? Sydney wasn't too happy that Crystal Candy rejected her, but some things couldn't be forced. Although she was young, she was still the master of a valley, so she quickly regained her composure and asked Elder Zhang politely. Valley Master, someone came to the valley to buy the ice spirit fruit. I don't know the price. Elder Zhang asked. Buy the ice spirit fruit. Which sect? Fiery Mountain or Sky Elixir sect? Xueli was slightly stunned and asked. After all, the ice spirit fruit was a precious treasure, but it was also of little value. Only those who cultivated the fire attribute heart technique could use it. For others, it was neither a medicinal ingredient nor could it increase their strength. That was why Xueli asked such a question. But whether it was the Fiery Mountain or the Sky Elixir sect, they would usually use treasures or pills of equal value. They wouldn't buy it with money. Only those hidden families and small sects would buy it with money. None of them. None of the 3 girls are cultivators. The only cultivator is a young man. He seems to be cultivating in the extreme Young Heart Sutra and has gone berserk. I don't know who taught him to come here to ask for medicine. Target =_blank. Chapter 1792. 1 billion. Sydney nodded. She didn't care where these people came from. The valley had its own rules, and as long as the price was right, they would sell it to you. 1 billion. Sydney said. That's not too high. Elder Zhang secretly clicked his tongue. For those hidden families and small sects that used money to buy treasures, the most expensive things they bought were only a few tens of millions, and even hundreds of millions were already quite amazing. But one ice spirit fruit actually asked for 1 billion. But thinking about it, it was not much. The Heavenly Elixir sect had promised to exchange the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill for 2 ice spirit fruits. However, Xueli's physique could not be changed by a single Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. If there was a marrow and bone remodeling pill and an Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, there was hope to change her physique to the Ice Heart Jade Bone physique. However, the marrow and bone remodeling pill was something that only existed in legends. The Sky Elixir sect practiced fire arts, and when they used fire to make pills, it was easy for them to go crazy. The ice spirit fruit was a necessity. Of course, perhaps it was because the valley had something that the Sky Elixir sect needed, or maybe it was because of the arts they practiced, but the Sky Elixir sect's young master didn't ask for Sydney's hand in marriage. This saved Sydney a lot of trouble. "I'll reply to them right away." Elder Zhang nodded. He clasped his fist and bade farewell before leaving the room. The next morning, a disciple from the Snow Valley brought food to Meng Yao, Tang Yun, and Yushu. It was light and simple, but one could see that the Snow Valley was very polite to the customers who came here to trade or buy treasures. Of course, this was also because these people could bring benefits to the valley. If they didn't have any treasures or money, they'd be kicked out a long time ago. Elder Zhang was a man with eyes. One look was enough to tell that Lin Yi was a practitioner who'd gone mad, and Meng Yao, on the other hand, had the temperament of a girl from a respectable family. Someone like that had to be rich. After breakfast, Meng Yao didn't expect Elder Zhang to be here so soon. She stood up respectfully. After all, she was here to ask for help. "Everyone," Valley Master Xue has already replied, "the Ice Spirit Holy Fruit is worth 1 billion, if you want to buy it, you can pay now." Elder Zhang said. 1 billion. Ming Yao's eyes were wide open. Even a rich girl like her couldn't close her mouth from the shock. Although she didn't know how much money her family had, she could definitely afford 1 or 200 million, but 1 billion. Elder Zhang himself was shocked by the price as well. He wasn't surprised by the reaction of Meng Yao and the others. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the price the Valley Master has quoted. If you can't accept it, then I'm sorry, but please leave. Wait, let's raise some funds." Meng Yao, naturally, couldn't just leave. 1 billion was an astronomical number to her, but she had to try no matter what. Of course. Elder Zhang nodded. "Then I won't bother you guys any longer. If you have the funds, you can have the disciples on duty contact me." With that, Elder Zhang left, leaving Tang Yin, who was still in a daze. 1 billion. Her mother had been so happy when she'd gotten 100 million back at House Tang, but Shuegu was asking for 1 billion right off the bat. Wasn't that a little too much? But looking at Mingyao's expression, it seemed like she was willing to buy it for 1 billion. This touched Tang Yun's heart. She didn't really understand Mingyao's feelings, but Meng Yao treated Lin Yi very well. "Yao Yao. This 1 billion. Tang Yun's face was filled with helplessness. "My family can only afford 100 million, I'll talk to my dad and see how much he has." Meng Yao nodded. 1 billion is a big number, but judging from Elder Zhang's tone, there doesn't seem to be any room for negotiation. "We'll have to try our best." Pingzhan had been immersed in his own narcissism for the past few days, fantasizing about how Pingzhan Industries could double its assets and become one of the largest corporations in the country. This was his lifelong dream, but it seemed that the dream wasn't that far off at the current rate of making money. His phone rang, and Pingzhan picked it up. It was his daughter's number. He couldn't help but smile. "Yao Yao, how are you doing at Star West Village?" Meng Yao was silent. She didn't tell Pingzhan about what happened to Lin Yi, but now she had to tell him the truth. "Dad, something happened to Lin Yi." "What?" "Something happened to Lin Yi." Pingzhan paused. "What happened to him?" "He went berserk during his training, and now his whole body is heating up. He's like a furnace." Meng Yao explained Lin Yi's situation. "We need a medicine to solve his problem, but..." "They asked for 1 billion, 1 billion. Pingzhan frowned. He was shocked by the number. He'd made quite a lot of money recently, but this was an astronomical number. "That much?" Yeah. Dad, can you take it out? This is Lin Yi's life-saving money. We can't waste any time. Meng Yao knew that she'd put her father in a difficult position, but she said it with determination. Yao Yao, don't worry. 1 billion, right? I'll think of something for you. Ping Zhan's importance to Lin Yi wasn't any less than Meng Yao's. He'd picked up some clues from the phone call he'd had with his father, and so he didn't need to contact his father this time. He decided that he had to save Lin Yi first, no matter what. That's good. Meng Yao let out a breath of relief upon hearing that. Yao Yao, wait for my call. I'll help you get the money. Ping Zhan said. As profitable as Ming Yue's plan was, Ping Zhan had no choice but to withdraw a portion of his funds for Lin Yi's sake. As a result, Ping Zhan called in Ming Yue immediately after hanging up. Ping Zhan bro. Why are you calling me again? Didn't I tell you about the results of the battle? You're not in such a hurry, are you? And Ming Yue asked with a smile on his face, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. You're going to be a pauper soon. Calling you Ping Zhan bro is already an honor. Hashtag. Chapter 1793. Withdrawal of Ming Yue bro, it's like this, something happened to my family, can you see if you can withdraw the 1 billion first? Is it really urgent here? Ping Zhan was worried about Lin Yi, so he didn't bother with small talk with Ming Yue, getting straight to the point. Withdraw. And Ming Yue paused, not expecting Ping Zhan to withdraw his investment at this time. He'd be able to take some of the money away if he were to withdraw the 1 billion, but he'd be able to come back to life with it. Ping Zhan was a veteran in the business world, and it was all thanks to the hypnotist that he'd lost his mind. That's right, please help me out, Ming Yue bro. Ping Zhan said. What is it, Ping Zhan bro? And Ming Yue asked, unfazed. Something happened to my family, it's not convenient for me to talk about it. Ping Zhan, naturally, wouldn't spill the beans about Lin Yi. I see. I'm not sure if I can withdraw my investment now, after all, I don't know anything about futures, so I'll just ask and get back to you later. And Ming Yue didn't reject it right away. It'd be too fake if he did. Alright, I'll wait for your call. Ping Zhan said. And Ming Yue hung up and looked at Jiang Wen curiously. Jiang Wen, what do you think Ping Zhan's playing at this time? He's withdrawing the 1 billion. Jiang Wen didn't have much to do these days, and his focus was on trapping Ping Zhan. Every time Ming Yue and Ping Zhan talked, he'd put them on speaker and recorded, so Jiang Wen could hear everything clearly. I'm not sure, but I can't let him withdraw the money. I have to make him bankrupt before I can get Meng Yao. But wouldn't Ping Zhan suspect something if we don't give it to him? And Ming Yue said worriedly. Even if you give him the 1 billion, can't you get the hypnotist to tell Ping Zhan to marry Meng Yao to you? What's the point? The key is that Meng Yao herself has to be willing. With Lin Yi and Yushu, those two bastards, there's no point in Ping Zhan agreeing to it. Jiang Wen shook his head. Then, what about hypnotizing Meng Yao? And Ming Yue asked. Hypnosis is only temporary. You can hypnotize her for a while, but you can't hypnotize her forever. She'll be in trouble when she wakes up, and what I want is Meng Yao's heart. Otherwise, I'll just kidnap her and do what's done. Wouldn't that be the end of the world? But I don't like this feeling. In Jiang Wen's heart, there was a perverted obsession that had driven him completely insane. Then, what should we do? And Ming Yue listened to Jiang Wen completely when it came to Ping Zhan. After all, Jiang Wen was the leader of the whole thing. Dad, the hypnotist thing reminded me of something. How about this, I'll let the hypnotist hint to Ping Zhan and ask him what he's doing with the 1 billion. We'll make a decision after that. Jiang Wen said after some thought. Alright, we'll make a decision after we get to the bottom of it. And Ming Yue nodded. Jiang Wen's position in the Fire Wolves right now was absolute. Although he was using the Fire Wolves' power to do his personal business, neither the hypnotist nor the professor had any objections. After all, he was doing his best to earn money for the Fire Wolves, and at the same time, he had to get some benefits for his family, right? And so, the hypnotist pretended to be Mingyue's secretary after listening to Jiang Wen's words and went to see Pingzhan with him. Pingzhan wasn't expecting Mingyue to come see him personally. He welcomed him in the company's guest room. Mingyue bro, what's the matter? You can just tell me over the phone, you don't have to come to the company, do you? I'm just passing by. And Mingyue said as he gave the hypnotist a look. The hypnotist's mouth emitted a very strange sound wave. After that, Pingzhan's expression froze for a moment, and his eyes became a little sluggish. Pingzhan, why are you pulling out the 1 billion? The hypnotist asked directly. Because Yao Yao called, saying that he's going crazy with his training, and he needs the 1 billion to buy the medicine, so I have to pull out the 1 billion. Pingzhan said expressionlessly. Who's he? The hypnotist asked subconsciously. It's Lin Yi. Pingzhan said. The hypnotist turned around and looked at Mingyue. He'd asked all the questions Jiang Wen wanted him to ask, and now he was waiting for Mingyue to make the decision. Hint to him that he can't just pull his money out of a business like this. If he changes his methods now, he might lose everything, but make him insist on pulling out the money. And Mingyue said. He didn't have a good excuse to explain how he'd lose everything, but now that Pingzhan was pulling out the money, wasn't this a good excuse? All right. The hypnotist nodded and let out another strange sound wave, repeating what Mingyue had said to Pingzhan. After that, another sound wave came out of his mouth, and Pingzhan returned to normal. What happened just now? Did he fall asleep? Pingzhan paused. Pingzhan bro, you were spacing out, I was just about to talk to you about pulling out the money. And Mingyue said, Pingzhan bro, I've asked Jiang Wen's friend, and he told me that financial investments are different from other businesses. If he were to pull out the money now, it might affect the whole plan, and he might lose everything. Why's that? Pingzhan paused. I'm not too sure myself, but it's probably the same principle as being a banker in a stock market. I don't know the specifics either. And Mingyue said, a financial genius like him must be doing things differently from others, otherwise he wouldn't be able to make so much money. I see. Pingzhan was a veteran in the business world, but he'd never been involved in financial investments before. He only had a general idea of how stocks and futures worked, but he didn't know much about the more complicated ones. He was a little hesitant after hearing Mingyue's words, but there was a voice in the depths of his heart that kept urging him to pull out the money, even if it meant a loss. He had to pull out the money. And so, under the urging and hinting, Pingzhan said, Mingyue bro, help me talk to that person, he has to pull out the money. All right, but it's very easy for things to go wrong, if something were to go wrong. And Mingyue said innocently with a shrug. Hashtag. Chapter 1794. Lose all one's capital, I'll take responsibility if there's a problem. Pingzhan said. Should we start withdrawing now? How should I put this? And Mingyue wanted to stop Pingzhan, but didn't know what to say. After some hesitation, he said, fine, if that's the case, Pingzhan bro, we're both businessmen. Give me an authorization document, we won't take responsibility if there's a problem, alright, no problem. Pingzhan didn't think much about it, and with the hypnotist's hint, he gave the authorization document to Mingyue without hesitation. After getting the document, Mingyue didn't stay any longer. She directly returned to the company with the hypnotist. However, on the way back, Mingyue almost wanted to look up to the sky and laugh. What a great thing. And Mingyue and Jiang Wen had been very careful when they were doing this, keeping a recording of the call. They didn't want Meng Yao to suspect something and ask Lin Yi to cause trouble for them. But now, House Chu's only pillar of support, Lin Yi, had gone into a deviation. Even the heavens were helping Housen. There was no way Mingyue was going to give Pingzhan this 1 billion, and not only that, he wouldn't give Pingzhan a single cent. At first, Jiang Wen and Mingyue had planned to create a false account when they went long or short, but the problem was that this financial genius had been making money before. Why would he lose everything all of a sudden? The futures market was ever-changing, but it didn't make sense at all. But that wasn't a problem anymore. And Mingyue could just say that it was Pingzhan's insistence on withdrawing the funds, forcing the trader to change the original plan. Not only did they fail to withdraw the funds, but they even ruined the plan, causing all the funds to go down the drain. Jiang Wen was very happy after hearing the news. Lin Yi had gone mad. The heavens had opened their eyes. They could do whatever they wanted now that the biggest obstacle in front of them was gone. With that thought, Jiang Wen and Mingyue went ahead with their plan. When Pingzhan got the reply from Mingyue, it was as if he'd been struck by lightning. He sat in his office with the phone in his hand, speechless. Lost money. All of it. How could this be? Just because he wanted to withdraw his investment in advance, his entire plan was disrupted, and he ended up losing everything. Pingzhan's expression was a little dazed as he stared at the familiar office. How many years of hard work was all gone in an instant? But as sad as he was, Pingzhan didn't forget about the important matter at hand. He suppressed the sadness in his heart after Mingyue told him the news. Mingyue bro, can you lend me 1 billion first? This sum of money is too important to me. I will definitely return it double in the future. Brother Pingzhan, it's not about me lending you 1 billion. Most of the money you lost was taken out by our clan. Big Brother and the old man are urging me to take over Pingzhan Industries. And Mingyue smiled bitterly. Brother Pingzhan, you know that our clan lent most of our funds to you. Where do we have the money now? Ah. Pingzhan was dumbfounded after hearing the words. His company was going to be gone as well. Pingzhan didn't even think about losing money when he took out his company's shares and assets as collateral, but the hypnotist's suggestion made him put everything on the line. Even at this moment, he still didn't dare to believe that he'd actually lost everything. How could this be possible? He could have made money from this. Brother Pingzhan, to be honest, Housen has suffered heavy losses this time as well. We didn't want to participate in this at first, but you insisted on doing something big again. We didn't have enough funds, so we had to replenish our funds, but now we've lost everything. And Mingyue said, alright, Brother Pingzhan, my big brother will be taking over the company and those assets tomorrow. I hope you can cooperate. Pingzhan's heart was filled with bitterness and confusion. He wanted to say something, but Mingyue had already hung up. Even now, Pingzhan didn't think that it was Mingyue who'd set him up. One could see how powerful the hypnotist was, and how powerful the hypnotist was. But no matter what, Pingzhan dialed Mengyao's number first. He'd promised Mengyao that he'd call her if there was any news, but now he had to tell her, no matter what, right? As much as Pingzhan wanted to help, there was nothing he could do. He might be sitting in his office, but he had nothing left. Daddy, how is it? Mengyao had been waiting for Pingzhan's call, but it had been a day and a night without any news. She was very nervous. Yao Yao. I can't get my funds out for now. Pingzhan hesitated, not telling the truth. Yao Yao must have been worried about Lin Yi's situation. She'd be even more worried if he told her that he had nothing left. Ah. Mengyao paused after hearing her father's words. I used all my money for that big project, so. Pingzhan lied, I'm sorry. Yao Yao, I'll think of something, Daddy. But Lin Yi's situation can't be delayed. Meng Yao was panicking. If we don't buy the medicine, his life might be in danger. I'll think of something else, Yao Yao, don't worry. Pingzhan said bitterly, Daddy, I'll think of another way. Meng Yao knew that her father was in a difficult position, or else he'd be more worried about Lin Yi than she was. She could tell from her father's attitude when Lin Yi was injured last time. Meng Yao couldn't force it upon him anymore. Meng Yao's face wasn't looking too good after hanging up. Tang Yun and Shu had heard the conversation with Pingzhan, and they understood her predicament. But what about Lin Yi? Maybe I should ask Fatty Lai. Maybe he can help. Tang Yun was helpless, and the only person she could think of was Fatty Lai. Alright, let's see if he has any money. Meng Yao's eyes lit up as well. But they didn't know that Fatty Lai's life was very difficult. All the money he had was used to pay the workers, but even so, he wouldn't be able to last long. House Liu was out of money, and the dealers who didn't get their refund banded together to collect the debt from Fatty Lai and House Liu. Chapter 1795. She didn't know much about business, but she'd been with Pingzhan for a long time, so she knew the basics. This time, House Kong had come prepared. They must have a master guiding them to be able to release so many new medicines in such a short time. Unless Lin Yi or Lin Dongfang were there, it was impossible for them to take down Dr. Kang's medical group with just a few formulas. You had it, and so did they. You didn't have an absolute advantage. Even if you sold the same things at the same price as them, you still wouldn't be able to win against Dr. Kang's brand. That's true, and Fatty Lai doesn't seem to have any money at all. He doesn't have any starting capital, so it's useless to just have the formulas. Tang Yun sighed. She wanted to borrow money from Bing Tang the most, but how would she get in touch with her? In Songshan, Pingzhan dejectedly transferred all his shares and assets to Hao San's name. He didn't want to, but Pingzhan had to go through all of Hao San's accounts. Pingzhan had gotten a few financial experts to look at them, and all of them had come to the same conclusion. Their previous setup was perfect, but the sudden withdrawal had affected the overall situation, resulting in a huge loss for them. Of course, this was also because Jiang Wen had asked the Firewolves to help him, hiring some analysts to create fake accounts based on the market. Not many people could predict the future's market accurately, but creating fake accounts based on the past market was something that most analysts and traders could do. Sacre Pingzhan thought of his retired father, his daughter Meng Yao, and Lin Yi. He was in a daze and depressed. All his assets were gone, including his cars, properties, and even Yao Yao's villa and car were all under Hao San's name. Pingzhan felt like he was at the end of his rope. He didn't have the face to face his father, his daughter, and Lin Yi. Ming Yao's villa, on the other hand, was under Pingzhan's name. Hao San didn't take over Ming Yao's villa right away, but they did say that they'd take it after Meng Yao packed her stuff. Yushu's villa, on the other hand, was under Pingzhan's name. Now, the only thing that belonged to the Chu family was her father's bungalow in the village, but it was not worth much. Mr. Chu, money is gone, but we can earn it again. You can't be depressed. Faubert had seen Pingzhan's rise and fall with his own eyes, but Faubert didn't know much about Pingzhan's investments, nor would he interfere. Faubert felt that there was something fishy about the whole thing, but he couldn't find anything wrong with it. Li Fu. With your skills, find a new boss. I don't have the money to pay you anymore. Chu Pingzhan looked at Faubert and smiled bitterly. Holy Church, Mr. Chu, what are you talking about? Li Fu staying here, not because of money. I have long regarded you and Yao Yao as a family. Faubert said, moreover, I can say that I have received a great favor from Lin Yi. No matter who it is, I can't leave, all right. Pingzhan patted Li Fu's shoulder and nodded heavily. Li Fu, go to Shu's villa and move the things back to Yao Yao's villa. What about you, Mr. Chu? Faubert paused and asked. I want to be alone, don't disturb me. Pingzhan waved his hand. Well. All right. Faubert could see that Pingzhan wasn't in a good mood, and there was no point in trying to persuade him. It was better to let him calm down first. Pingzhan sat on a bench by the roadside, and Faubert walked quickly to Ocean View Bay Villa. The Bentley no longer belonged to them, and Faubert had to walk home. Fortunately, he was a practitioner, and walking was nothing to him. Jianda didn't expect Jiang Wen to be this ruthless, taking all of Pingzhan's assets and money into House N's hands. Not only did he not admire him, but he was even more jealous. But, even if he was jealous, Jianda still had to smile and praise Pingzhan in front of his father, and Mingyue, and Jiang Wen. Jianda, didn't you say you have a grudge against Pingzhan? Pingzhan has no value at all now, you can make your move. And Mingri said to Jianda. No one knew a son better than a father, and he could tell that although Jianda had a smile on his face, he must be feeling a lot of pressure in his heart. Pingzhan was the perfect target for him to vent his anger on. Oh. Brother, you have a grudge against Pingzhan. Why would you do that? Jiang Wen asked, surprised. He was calculating the pros and cons in his mind. No one would suspect him if he made a move against Pingzhan now, because Pingzhan had no value anymore. If Pingzhan had handed the money over to Housen before this, people would have suspected Housen for sure if something had happened to Pingzhan. Heh, big bro, this business isn't as big as yours. It's just a small business, and I had some bad blood with him before. Jianda said with a fake smile, I wanted to make a move against him before, but I let him go when I heard that you were scamming money for Housen. I see. Then, big bro, do you need my help? Jiang Wen had an idea. If something happened to Pingzhan now, wouldn't Meng Yao have no one to rely on? Plus, Lin Yi's condition was unknown, and Jiang Wen would be Meng Yao's only support. Otherwise, how was Meng Yao supposed to survive alone? At that thought, he wanted to help Jianda kill Pingzhan. It'd be best if you could help. And Jianda was about to decline when he remembered the hypnotist beside Jiang Wen. I've prepared a car accident for Pingzhan, and I've already found a scapegoat. But if the hypnotist could hint to Pingzhan to commit suicide, we wouldn't have to bear too much responsibility. That'd be great. And Jianda was about to decline when he remembered the hypnotist beside Jiang Wen. No problem. Jiang Wen agreed. I'll arrange for him to go with you right now. Pingzhan sat on a bench by the roadside. There were a few times he wanted to contact his father and tell him about his troubles, but he was afraid that the old man wouldn't be able to handle it. His company had become someone else's in the blink of an eye, and no one would feel good about that. His daughter, on the other hand, was in desperate need of money for Lin Yi's medicine. How was he supposed to explain this to her? Pingzhan hated himself, why was he so obsessed? And Mingyue had told him to stop while he was ahead, why was he still so greedy? That you're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.